And one side doesn't have a,
Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, May 6, 2024. This is a regular meeting of the Moscow City Council. Gina.
hello there. I'd like to think you're all here for this exciting meeting. But you all look like a lot of Dollingers to me. So please, if you would, if you're able, stand with us and let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was the happiest chorus of Pledge of Allegiance since elementary school for me. I love it.
We've done well. Next up, we have a couple of proclamations. First proclamation is up for the Bike Month. Whereas National Bike Month began in May 1956, and whereas bicycling has been an affordable, environmentally sound mode of transportation, an excellent form of exercise and fun recreation since the first pedal-propelled bicycle appeared in the 1860s. And whereas bicycling contributes to retail sales, tourism dollars, infrastructure, and policies that support community livability, and whereas bicycle commuting benefits both employees and employers through better health and fitness, lower costs, and reduced parking space. And whereas bicycling reduces heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, and improves mental health and cardiovascular fitness. And whereas Bike to Work Week will take place May 13th through May 19th. And whereas Bike to Work Day will take place Friday, May 17th. And to celebrate Bike to Work Day, the Moscow Pathways Commission will be on the corner of 6th and Main Street on Friday, May 17th from 7 to 9 a.m. And the public is welcome to stop by and enjoy coffee donated by One World Cafe. And whereas the Moscow Pathways Commission will host their annual bike tour on Tuesday, June 11th from 5 to 6:30 p.m., the annual bike tour will begin and end at Mountain View Park at the picnic shelter. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, the mayor of the city of Moscow, do hereby proclaim May 2024 to be Bike Month in Moscow and urge everyone who can to cycle to work, school, shopping, or errands, or simply for pleasure. David Schott, do we have you here to receive the Bike Month?
Tanya from the,
Hooray, Tanya.
And Tanya from the Pathways as well. So we'll step right up here. You get the proclamation. We stand close enough to be beautiful.
doesn't matter which day, but I want to be sure we follow up, or I follow up.
I'm Tanya Dennison. I'm the chair of the City of Moscow Pathways Commission. It's my honor to accept the Bike Month proclamation from Mayor Becky. Thank you. It looks like we have some mixed weather for May, if today's any indication, but I encourage everyone to get out, do some cycling, enjoy the spaces that we have available to us here in this great community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Second proclamation is for Public Service Recognition Week in honor of the millions of public employees at federal, state, county, and city levels. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the city, county, state, and federal levels to do work that keeps our nation working. And whereas Moscow's public servants include a wide range of professionals who work each and every day to deliver quality municipal services and enhance Moscow's sense of community. And whereas day in and day out, Moscow's public servants provide the diverse services required by our community with efficiency and integrity. And whereas public servants at every level of public service provide continuity and support to our representative democracy, providing for stability and the orderly transition of elected officials and representatives. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, the mayor of the city of Moscow, do hereby proclaim May 5th through May 11th, 2024 as Public Service Recognition Week in the city of Moscow. And I encourage all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, city, county, state, and federal. And on behalf of the public servants working for the city of Moscow, I'll accept this proclamation.
Is Laura going to take your picture?
Yeah, you get a photo op?
Totally picture.
Oh, we're on camera. Catch us on YouTube. On to the regular agenda. First off, we have the approval of Moscow City Council, April 15th, 2024 minutes.
I move we approve.
Second.
Okay, hearing nothing more. Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce.
Aye.
Okay, those pass.
Thanks, Lori.
Next up, we have staff recognition. Tyler Palmer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Happy to be here. These are some of my favorite things to be before you with. Tonight, we have the staff recognition for Steve Purcell. Steve's receiving a recognition from from LTAC, Local Highway Technical Advisory Committee, for his completion of the Road Master Program. Steve started with us as a seasonal employee, which is something that we always take a lot of pride in when we have somebody who comes in, works seasonal, gets a full-time job because they've proven themselves, and then continues to work their way up through. And when you have someone like Steve working their way up to a road master, that's no small thing. It takes many, many hours of classes, certifications, training, tests. It's a really rigorous program. Steve started in 2016, and he completed his work in 2022 on this. And we've got Jamie with the LTAC Center that'll be here to make the presentation tonight. But to me, it's always gratifying to recognize people like Steve because they are sort of unsung heroes in our community. Every time a light works, every time a sign is visible, every time a parade happens, every time there's a successful road closure or a patched asphalt, all of those things don't just happen. The crosswalks don't just magically show up on the roads. It takes people doing that, and that's what makes our community run. And it's really Steve, the unsung heroes that show up day in and day out because they're committed to making the community work. And so we're so grateful to have him. Great presence. He's always been a very pleasant, fun person to have with our crew. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Jamie with the LTAC Center to make the presentation for Steve.
Oh, swag.
Very
jealous.
The fun stuff. So thank you again. I'm Jamie Kuntz with the LTAC. And you said it very well. It's like a master's degree. This can take up to 8 years to get. It's the equivalent of 22 courses, 160 hours worth of training. It's quite an accomplishment. So on behalf of LTAC, I want to present this to Steve Purcell.
Hooray, Steve.
He gets a brand new car card.
Yeah.
It's yours, not mine.
I'm really jealous.
After 122.
Yeah, gotta earn it. I love it.
Congratulations.
Right on.
Thanks,
That's
Steve.
awesome.
Thanks and congratulations. Okay, next up, we have mayor's appointment, and this is for Garrett LaCivita for the Sustainable Environment Commission with an appointment to end 12/31/24.
I move we approve.
Second.
Commission appointment.
Moved and seconded.
Second.
Oh, we got it.
Yeah, sorry, man.
So, but
Not really.
we'll take the vote starting with you, Brian.
Aye.
Okay, Julia,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Okay, is Garrett here anyplace? Nope. Okay, we won't humiliate her by dragging her up to the microphone then. Next up is public comment and mayor's response period. And for the next 15 minutes in 3-minute increments, we'll hear what's on public's mind, as long as it's not before us tonight on the agenda, nor pending before planning and zoning or the Board of Adjustment. Just announce your name, address, and take 3 minutes.
Bless you.
David Hall, 1334 Wallen Road, Moscow. I'd like to acknowledge staff's event parking allowance for the 3rd Street event we had this past weekend. Thank you.
Thanks. We did put a bit of thought into that one, assist with the parking this year. So thank you for the notice.
Hello. That's my first time here. Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Brianna Sipley, and I live at 603 West Palouse River Drive, trailer 21. And I'm here to advocate for the development of a new resident-owned community in Moscow. I live in a tiny home on wheels in ABL. I chose this lifestyle because it's in alignment with my values of minimalism and environmental stewardship. Coming from a working class background without familial support for home ownership, the affordability and eco-friendly appeal of tiny homes led me to Moscow in 2019. Regrettably, the promise of a thriving community has been overshadowed by the mismanagement and oppressive tactics of Hearst & Sons, LLC. As a Master of Social Work candidate at Boise State University, my studies shed light on the affordable housing crisis gripping Idaho. Additionally, the passage of House Bill 545, stripping local governments of rent regulation powers, presents a significant setback. The alarming reality of economic evictions displacing mobile home residents propelled me to explore alternatives. Introduced to the resident-owned community model by Victoria O'Banion of Rock USA, I found hope in its potential to address both housing and climate justice issues, and also leveraging collective action and affecting meaningful change, which helped me connect with other residents. Although residents in Hearst Parks in Moscow have successfully formed a cooperative, there's little we can do while still under Hearst ownership. And Hearst doesn't appear open to bringing their leases in alignment with Idaho law, let alone negotiating with residents. Moscow has the opportunity to lead by example, demonstrating a commitment to the dignity and well-being of all residents, irrespective of income or background. While community land trusts offer viable solutions, they may not address the urgent need for denser housing solutions to combat the crises mobile home communities are currently facing. Additionally, the community land trust model cannot guarantee the long-term fair and affordable housing residents deserve that the resident-owned community model provides. Though some, like Hearst & Sons, may resist, success stories from other parts of Idaho and across the U.S. prove the efficacy of this model. Progress has been made in identifying potential land parcels and securing funding through collaborative efforts with the Planning Division and Rock USA, but these are still in the very beginning stages. And so I ask you, please consider how you can help champion the creation of resident-owned communities in Moscow. We need your wisdom. Susie, who will be presenting after me, will share a bit about her experience and present some additional information on resident-owned communities. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thanks, Brianna.
Thank you.
So I'm Susie James. I live at 2979 Highway 95 South, number 12. I've lived in that park for 7 years, and it was a very nice, friendly place to live. Peaceful, come home from work, a nice place to relax. Since Hearst & Son has taken over, they seem to have no morals, no values. They don't realize laws. They just kind of walk in and mow over the top of us. They take no consideration as to anything we say. We are in the process of working out the legal stuff that they are illegally trying to do to us. But at this point, nothing has been resolved, but that is something we are working on. At the end of the day, though, even if we do get the legal stuff worked out, they're still just going to constantly harass us and threaten us, as they have been doing. And nothing really we can do about that. As Brianna said, at the end of the day, they still own the park. We cannot convince them to sell it to us or force them to, unfortunately. So we would like to try something else. A resident-owned community is a nonprofit organization that functions much like a government entity. A cooperative would be formed, a board is elected, members govern themselves. The residents own their homes independently, and they jointly own the land. The Rock Foundation would be able to get us a mortgage. Our rents, our monthly rent amounts would actually be a mortgage payment towards our land. We understand that we can put about 100 homes on 10 acres, and it would be affordable for everyone. At this moment, we don't know what those 100 homes would look like. Maybe another manufactured home park, maybe a tiny home. RV type situation, or we may be able to get actual small stick-built homes. Just depends on what the funding is. We're still looking into that. Our goal is to provide truly affordable and fair housing for everyone with all types of income, no matter what their source is. Resident-owned community would provide stability now and eventually generational wealth. We think everyone has the right to live in dignity and have a guaranteed roof and enjoy their home every day when they come home. We want to see affordable housing for everyone in this community so no one has to be forced to move away or live unhoused. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor Bedke and council members, my name is Kathy Dawes. I live at 1018 East E Street in Moscow, and I'm running for the Idaho Legislature, District 6, Seat B, a position currently held by Brandon Mitchell. Shortly after I announced my candidacy, Brianna told me her story and asked if there was anything I could do for her. After becoming aware of the issues that she and her neighbors are facing, I wanted to help find solutions. However, the problems they face will become even more difficult to solve due to a new state law that was introduced this year by Representative Mitchell. As you probably know, the city of Boise worked for months with local and state organizations and passed a resolution that went into effect January of 24 that contained a series of renter protections, limiting outrageous rental application fees, ensuring people with Section 8 vouchers that they would not face discrimination from property management, and protecting tenants who have had to deal with significant rent increases. 3 months later, on March 27th, the Idaho legislature passed Bill H-545, sponsored by Representative Mitchell and signed by Governor Little, that will go into effect July 1, preventing any local government from enacting any such resolutions, basically overriding local government's efforts to protect renters. Moscow has a problem with affordable housing. Manufactured homes are one of the most affordable options for housing. And as you've heard from Brianna and Susie, this issue is very important here in Moscow. As a big out-of-state investor, Hearst & Sons purchased all 6 mobile home parks. And I can understand Representative Mitchell's concern about a city telling private landowners what they can or can't do on their land regarding rent. But this is a case of an unscrupulous, distant landlord that owns at least 73, as of August of 23, 73 manufactured home communities across 5 states. He is benefiting from their rents. The Idaho legislature's efforts to preempt city ordinances and resolutions are part of an alarming trend in government overreach for the past few years. Local governments should be able to implement solutions to their own problems. I personally place a high value on local control as well as consumer protection. Our community should have the freedom to pursue creative solutions for our lack of affordable housing. This issue is one of the many reasons I want to serve in the Idaho legislature. I applaud the efforts of a newly formed Moscow Manufactured Home Resident Cooperative, and I urge the council to support their efforts any way you can to form a resident-owned community. I also strongly support recent efforts to create a local housing authority that is to be discussed at the next city council meeting, from what I understand. I will not be able to attend that meeting, so that is why I wanted to come here tonight to express my input now, since I believe that effort will definitely help these residents and many others in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, that was 4. We've got room for one more if anybody else wants to go. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next, which is the oath of office for Anthony Dellinger as police chief. Bill presenting.
Thank you, Your Honor. As the council is aware, at the April 1st meeting of this year, Mayor Bedke proposed the appointment of then Captain Anthony Dellinger to the position of Chief of Police following Chief Fry's retirement announcement. Anthony's been at the Moscow Police Department for over 12 years and has 17 years of experience in law enforcement. He is a graduate of the University of Idaho with a Bachelor's of Science in Crime and Justice Studies, holds numerous certifications, and has attended a number of FBI Leadership Institute sessions, and is a graduate of the FBI National Academy, one of the premier law enforcement training programs in the world. Prior to joining the Moscow Police Department in 2011, Anthony served as a detention and patrol deputy with Lake County Sheriff's Department. On April 1st, City Council confirmed Anthony's appointment to be effective May 1st, following Chief Fry's official retirement date. So tonight we are here to administer Anthony his oath of office and to perform the ceremonial pinning. With that, I would like to invite City Clerk Lori Hopkins up to administer the oath to Anthony. If you come on up, please.
I don't want to be in the background.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Idaho,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Idaho,
that I will enforce Moscow City ordinances,
that I will enforce Moscow City ordinances,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
all the duties of police chief
all the duties of police chief
of Moscow, Idaho,
of Moscow, Idaho,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Get a picture of that. Wait, get a picture of that.
Thank you.
And then now, I would like to invite Anthony's wife, Jessica, to come up and do the pinning.
Thanks, Drew.
It's here for your leisure. Sure, we need that. I can get on it.
Hooray!
Clearly, you've done that before.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thank you, Mayor Bedke, City Council members, and City Supervisor Bill Belknap for your faith in me, as is evident by your appointment and confirmation. I want to thank retired Chief Fry, retired Captain Roger Lanier, retired Captain Will Crassel, and many others who invested in me with their coaching and mentorship, and I'm forever grateful. I would especially like to thank my family. I would not be standing here today if it were not for their love, support, encouragement, and guidance. I cannot put into words how much you all mean to me. To my wife, Jess, I can never thank you fully for the many, many sacrifices you have made in your unwavering support of me, my career, and more importantly, our family. To my children, Vincent and Caroline, I'm so proud of you both. You are growing up into wonderful people. Thank you for supporting me as well, and for putting up with my many absences and my occasional grouchiness. Also, I am sorry. It's hard enough to be a police officer's kid, much less the chief's kid. So, my condolences. But finally, to the members of the Moscow Police Department, our community is so fortunate to have such an amazing group of people providing the level of public safety we all enjoy. You all continue to impress with your compassion, integrity, and professionalism. I am excited to continue to work alongside each of you as we strive for excellence in all we do in our service to the community and its citizens. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Anthony. We'll have a bit of a pause while the dinner reservations are
Bye,
met.
guys.
Oh, he knows how to clear a room.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
The room,
Yeah,
You want them all to leave?
I'm glad.
the entire group.
Thanks to the rest of you for sticking around. Appreciate it.
Sorry, Mayor.
Yes. So anyway, next up is a Citizens Commission report for the Moscow Pathways Commission. David Schott and Tanya Dennison. Come on down.
Eric Betke, members of council, thank you for having us this evening. I'd like to welcome back Tanya Dennison, Chair of the Moscow Pathways Commission. Tanya grew up in Latah County and is a longtime resident of Moscow. She is the Chief Information Officer at NRS, an avid cyclist and walker, and has been a member of the Moscow Pathways Commission since 2017. So with that, I will turn it over to Tanya for our annual report this year.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mayor Becky, city councilors, and members of the public. I appreciate your participation and support of the work of the commission over the past year. See if I can figure this out. There we go. The mission of the Moscow Pathways Commission is to promote and advise on the development of a path system in and around Moscow, embracing three important community concerns: active transportation, recreation, and resource conservation and enhancement. This is a little difficult to see from your seats, but we have developed a representational map of the pathways with respect to the major city streets in Moscow. The blue sections are some of the major components of our pathway system. You can see that they're not all directly connected, but they form an important piece of the connectivity for transportation and recreation around Moscow. This map is available from the city website and also from any of our Pathways Commission events. So here is the Pathways Commission members. I want to thank all of them for their ideas, their work promoting our paths, and in elevating the voices of the public with respect to these spaces. So it's composed of myself, Robert Heckendorn, who's the vice chair, Becky Chastain is the secretary, Margaret Dibble, Judy Brown, Aaron Bacon, and our newest member, Jim Peterson. Thanks also to Haley Lewis and Drew Davis for coordinating between the Moscow Pathways Commission and the City Council. David Schott for his diligence in connecting city efforts with the commission. Melissa Fisher for her work last year, keeping us well documented and on track. And city staff for material support of our activities and regular upkeep along the paths. Accomplishments from the last year. We had our annual bike tour. Last year, we held the bike tour on May 21st, and we met at Alturas Park and took a leisurely ride down Paradise Path to Berman Creekside Park with a small trip up to see the upcoming underpass of Highway 95, which we're very excited about. Can't wait to see that get started. We had a Bike to Work Day celebration at the corner of 6th and Main. We got to talk to the public about our pathway system, bicycle commuting, and cheered on the cyclists and pedestrians. We had our second annual pedestrian tour, which is an opportunity for us to investigate our paths at a slower pace. We shared a small section of the path, starting at the Gormley Park Shelter, going around the U of I Student Rec Center and back again. And we ended at the new bike education park by West Park Elementary. We accepted the Bike Month proclamation as well. Thank you, Mayor. And we staffed a booth at 2 of the farmers markets. This is an opportunity for us to inform the public about the pathway system and also to hear back from you all about what you enjoy about our pathways and any potential concerns that you might have. We always get a lot of interest and feedback from those events. And we did update the banners that we use at our events and developed a section in the citizen survey relating to pathways usage. This allows us to learn more about how people use our paths and where they see room for improvement. This year, we have a number of activities planned and goals that we'll continue to pursue. Bike to Work Day, as you just heard, is on Friday, May 17th. We will be at the corner of 6th and Main in the morning, so stop by for coffees and kudos. If you're on your bike or riding, or if you're driving, just give us a little honk. We'd like to hear from everybody. We'll be at the Moscow Farmers Market, staffing a booth on May 18th and September 14th. Our annual bike tour will be in June this year, June 11th, starting at the Mountain View Park picnic shelter. We'll cycle at a leisurely pace down the path through to Kiwanis Park, up to the Herc, and then back down F Street to Mountain View. So invite all of you to join us if you enjoy biking. And then we'll have our annual walking tour later this summer or fall. We have not yet scheduled the time or location, but you will stay tuned for more about that. In the interest of finding new ways to communicate with the public, we want to explore adding a write-up about the pathway system to the city utility billing newsletter. And there are many ways of engaging with our pathways. This isn't simply a bike path. We want to create a dialogue with people of all abilities so that this space can continue to be enjoyed by everyone. The commission members are all passionate about our pathway system, and we will continue to promote ideas from the public and ourselves to improve these spaces. And we will continue to pursue involvement in planning for pathways in new developments so that residents can access and connect to pathways from their homes. I invite any questions or comments.
Of course, Haley.
I love my time on Pathways Commission, and I miss hanging out with y'all on first, second, third Tuesdays. I don't remember what days. Second Tuesdays. Thank you. I am curious. I have a question and then a comment that I am hoping we'll see where this goes. But other than the Highway 95 underpass on Main, is there any? Do you have other pie in the sky things that the commission's been talking about, or is it because I feel like you've done a tremendous job over the years connecting all of our segments of pathways into a more cohesive thing. But is there something that we'd like to see in the next 10 years that you guys have been dreaming about?
I think two of the main things that have come up fairly consistently have been increasing the safety along the crossings on Paradise Path at Blaine and Steiner. And also the crossing at Mountain View is fraught, and with increased development, there's concern that it will be more difficult as there's more traffic through there. Ideally, another underpass would be great.
And I had talked briefly with Aaron Bacon about this, and my pie in the sky hope, I would love to see Pathways and Transportation Commission and maybe the school district work on deploying a bike bus. If you've not yet seen this bike bus thing on social media, yes, I saw it on social media first. I am a millennial, but it's a super cool community movement that started in Portland. And I would love if we decide if it's feasible or not, but that's my pie in the sky thing. But I'm very grateful for your leadership with the commission and what everyone's been able to contribute to the group. So thanks, Tanya.
Thank you very much. I love that idea, and I love the idea of more collaboration with the Transportation Commission and school districts, because I think having more information about connectivity will help people use these spaces more efficiently.
Agreed. Love it.
Sandra.
I have to say, one of my very favorite things about the Pathways Commission is that it also does focus on walking tours, which I appreciate a lot, and your orphan path search. And I've been out ever since I was on the Pathways Commission. I think I was able to serve twice on there, and it was illuminating to me. And I love going on a walk with my dog and trying to find an orphan path. And I haven't found a new one yet, but there are a lot of really cool things about Moscow, and that was one I had no idea about. And so I've learned so much from the Pathways. And thanks to all of you for what you do.
Yeah, and thank you for meeting with us. That was a joy to have you.
Madam Chair, what happens, like I'm wandering outside with my dog. I'm not Sandra. I can't look at a pathway and say orphan or what's the other side of an orphan?
Well known.
Well known. How do I know an orphan path from a non-orphan path?
Well, and also I think we're trying to change the verbiage on
Yeah.
that to social paths. The social paths are, they're not marked, and they are on city property or right of way, but they're just commonly used. And so people who live in that area might know that they can use that space, but other people don't. And so identifying it in a way that the public can understand they can use it to connect between spaces is important.
So it can be a shortcut or a dirt path or okay.
As long as it's not trespassing.
Right.
Scott
That's the
used to
trick.
call them ancestral game trails.
Ancestral game. That's way cooler than orphan path. Thank you, Tanya.
So,
I have a question for you.
Julia.
So I love the paths and I use them all the time. But I think one of the biggest questions we get is about maintenance of the paths and hazards that aren't usually even the Moscow paths. They're usually part at the university or on the Chipman Trail and so how do people get information to the right person about needs for fixing the paths?
One of the most common things that comes up is when the tree roots elevate the asphalt, and that creates probably the most issues.
Yes.
David, you might be able to answer this better. Yes.
Counselor Parker, thank you for the question. So the pathway system, the maintenance is overseen by Parks, and so I would be the contact for that. And so feel free to reach out.
He's on the city website with his email.
That's usually who I forward those emails to, but then I just don't know if that's
So-
right.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I think I've got a
Bryce.
question, comment. Tanya, thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. What is the relationship, if any, between the Pathways Commission and some of the local bike shops in town? Because I could see that there could be maybe an avenue to explore with them, not necessarily a partnership, but just a visibility thing for like what the Pathways Commission does, but also maybe utilizing some of their services as well. So I'm curious if there is any dialogue or if you have contacts with a couple of the bike shops that are in downtown, because there's a few, right? So yeah, just curious what the relationship is, if any, with the local businesses.
We haven't pursued anything officially.
Sure.
Like we've dropped off some flyers occasionally, but that's really an excellent point, because if that's a place where people are going to begin, an adventure in cycling, that might be also a place they can learn about where they can take their kids safely or where they can start out if they're not familiar with biking. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you, and it's great working with you all. So thanks
Thanks, Drew.
for the presentation.
Great. Thanks so
Right,
much.
thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, next up, we have a public hearing, the Pineview Annexation Comprehensive Plan Land Use Designation, Zoning Designation, and Preliminary Plat. And for those in attendance who might not show up here very often, this is how a public hearing works. The public hearing is opened by me. The staff presents the relevant facts of the matter. City Council can ask some questions of staff at that point to clarify some issues. After that, the applicant can come up and present their point of view. Following that, we hear public testimony in favor of the actions. After that, we hear public testimony in opposition. Following that, we hear public testimony of a general nature. After that, the applicant has a chance to come up and answer any of the questions that were presented during the public testimony. And after that, the public hearing closes and the council deliberates. So at this time, public hearing is open. Mike Ray from Community Development, go for it.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. So before you tonight, we have the Pineview Annexation, Comp Plan, Designation, Zoning Designation, and Preliminary Subdivision Plat. So this is the subject property, 22.93 acres in size. You can see the current city limits boundary with the green dashed line. Primarily agricultural land there to the east, the tree farm there to the northwest, and then this is the Mosier Estates addition, and you have Mosier Street that connects to the property. Rolling Hills subdivisions to the south. This will be 3rd Street. Currently under development in this segment, as well as this. This is Rolling Hills 9th and Rolling Hills 10th. So that's anticipated to be connected sometime this summer. So just a closer view of the property. There's a driveway that extends across that serves 2 residences, one located in the county and another in the county here in the northeast. So the applicants are Joe and Pam Jewson. They're proposing 4 actions before you tonight. 22.93 acre property proposed to be annexed into the city. The first is annexation request of the property. The second is retaining the current comprehensive plan land use designation, which is auto urban residential. The third is zoning designation from the ag forest zone, which is currently zoned in the county, to the moderate density single family residential, which is our R2 zone. And then the preliminary plat of the property with 40 lots ranging from 12,077 square feet to 27,491 square feet in size. And it's being referred to as the Pine View subdivision. So it brings us to the current comprehensive plan land use designation. It's auto urban residential. There is a Mosier Park property there to the southwest. So this has already been dedicated. It's about 5 acres in size. Pretty much all the surrounding properties are in that auto urban residential, with exception of the Mosier Park. So the proposal is to retain the auto urban residential designation. So what the comp plan states about that designation is it's intended to contain predominantly single-family detached homes on lots ranging from 7,000 to 11,000 square feet in size, typically more isolated from surrounding uses, which may require residents to rely more on automobile transportation. It includes low to moderate density residential uses, densities between 3 to 6 units per acre, which could include a mixture of single, twin home and townhouse residential dwellings. And then it points to the R1, R2, and R3 zones in our zoning code as being the most appropriate. Brings us to the zoning configuration of the area. Like I mentioned previously, it's currently ag forest, as well as the county properties to the north and to the east. Proposal is the R2 designation, which is consistent with the properties in the city to the west and to the south. So what the zoning code states about the R2 zone, it's a moderate density residential zone appropriate where the following circumstances are present. Single family dwellings predominate the area. Terrain's not harshly irregular, and smaller lot sizes can be accommodated without extensive earthwork. Utilities and other public facilities are adequate for the densities allowed. And the existing lot development patterns and policies embodied in the comprehensive plan also guide the application of the zoning district. And really a single family zone, but there are other uses such as market and community gardens, group child care facilities, and public parks and recreation facilities that are permitted in the R2. So it brings us to the Pine View subdivision preliminary plat. So like I mentioned before, 22.93 acre area with 40 lots ranging from 12,077 square feet to 27,491 square feet in size. The R2 zone has a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 60 feet. So all these proposed lots meet that requirement. And this brings us to the preliminary plat. So the north is the top of your screen. You can see Mosier Street comes in the west side. This would be the connection of 3rd Street. So it ends up changing names because we're on a grid system here in the city. So this would be Moose Drive at the Mosier Street intersection as it heads north. I have a new street, Whitetail Lane, cul-de-sac on the west side, and then that'll be stubbed to the property there to the east. The right-of-way does extend on Moose Drive all the way up to the property boundary. This would be the extension of D Street, but we currently don't have right-of-way. There is a utility easement there to be able to serve the property with utilities, but there's no right-of-way currently. But that is extended to the north to that property boundary, and so at any point in the future, when D Street is extended to the east, it would be able to connect. This is the stormwater detention pond here in the northwest. So just a closer view of the western portion of the subdivision. There is an existing pedestrian easement that's located at the cul-de-sac here to the west that connects to Mosier Park. And then this is just panning to the east. And then finally the north. So looking at 3rd Street and Moose Drive, they're both designated as collectors. So that's a 34-foot wide street section with bike lanes on both sides and no on-street parking. Curb gutter sidewalks on both sides as well. And then Mosier Street and Whitetail Lane are our 28-foot local street section, parking on one side of the street. And then, of course, curb gutter sidewalks on both sides as well. And water service, there's an existing main in Mosier Street as well as the future main and 3rd Street extension. Sanitary sewer is proposed to be extended through the subdivision and conveyed along the existing utility easement along future alignment of D. Subject property is considered developable in the comprehensive sewer system plan. And then storm sewer is proposed to be piped and directed to stormwater detention pond in the northwest corner of the subdivision, then conveyed to existing mains within D Street, which will be extended. Detention facilities of the proposed development will need to meet, of course, Moscow stormwater runoff control standards, which requires the stormwater to be detained at the pre-development rate. This is associated with a recommendation from the planning department. And so I had mentioned previously, there's a pedestrian current connection here at the end of the Mosier Street cul-de-sac. Staff's recommendation that another pedestrian connection from Whitetail Lane down to Mosier Street, as well as the undeveloped property to the north, be required as a condition of the plat, and that's just to provide pedestrian connection. Maybe at some point in the future, the undeveloped property to the north is developed. There's currently no roadways within this subdivision that would be stubbed to the property, and that would provide a pedestrian connection down to the park property as well as Russell School on D Street.
Or not Russell, but McDonald.
McDonald, excuse me, sorry. Parkland dedication requirements have previously been satisfied with a parkland dedication, 1.37 acres towards the creation of city's Mosier Park property in 1994. Therefore, no further parkland dedications required. Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing for this proposal on March 27th, 2024, recommended approval with 8 conditions. So staff recommends the council conduct the public hearing upon the annexation, comprehensive plan, land use designation, zoning designation, and preliminary plat. And upon consideration of any testimony presented, approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title, published by summary. If the annexation ordinance is approved, approve the proposed comp plan, land use designation resolution, and adopt P&Z's RCS. If the annexation ordinance and the comp plan resolutions approved, approve the required zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary, and adopt P&Z's relevant criteria of relevant reason statement of relevant criteria. And then if the annexation ordinance is approved, comp plan resolutions approved, zoning ordinance is approved, approve the preliminary plat for Pine View Addition with the following 8 conditions recommended by P&Z and the additional condition recommended by staff, and adopt P&Z's RCS document. The first one, the proposed subdivision shall be analyzed in the city's water system model to verify that the current design will have adequate potable and fire flow requirements. And if there are deficiencies, the applicant shall be responsible for the construction of the improvements needed to adequately serve the subdivision. Applicant shall work with the city to determine whether the D Street sanitary sewer connections are sufficient to accommodate the proposed subdivision. And if there are deficiencies, the applicant shall be responsible for the construction of the improvements needed to adequately serve the subdivision. In accordance with the prior development agreement, the applicant shall be responsible for the construction of all public improvements from the current terminus of Mosier Street to the subject property. So there's a couple of properties at the end of Mosier Street that still have a gravel right of way in front of those, as well as no sidewalks. So that's just pertaining to that condition. The applicant shall be required to conduct a detailed stormwater discharge analysis to include any mitigation actions necessary to ensure the stormwater facility shall have no downstream adverse impacts, subject to the approval of the city engineer. And then an emergency vehicle turnaround will need to be provided at the eastern terminus of Mosier Street, and road improvement utilities will need to be extended to the eastern property boundary of the subject property. The applicant shall provide adequate access to at least every other manhole for the sanitary sewer and storm sewer mains for maintenance. And the applicant shall connect the water line in the Whitetail Lane cul-de-sac to the water line in Mosier Street for water quality and redundancy purposes. And the applicant shall extend a pedestrian walkway from Whitetail Lane south to Mosier Street and north to the property boundary of the adjacent undeveloped property. And the The last one is the right-of-way vacation request shall be approved by city council prior to the final plat. And so it was later determined through the process, there's a deed of dedication. There was an easement for the driveways that went across the property. And then subsequently, there was apparently right-of-way that was dedicated as well. I think per state law, that's illegal to do. So there was some conversation about whether or not that was null and void or whether it was valid. And we decided, discussing with our legal department, to take a conservative approach and go ahead and vacate that right away. So that's condition number 9. So certainly try to answer any questions that you have.
I have one that I think I'm able to ask now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mike, I'm hearing the numbers between the 7 to 11,000 square foot lot size being part of what's guiding us to the R2, but I'm trying to remember what the difference is between R2 and R1. Is it, I'm assuming, I know and trust that the staff have done their job to recommend the right rezone, but I'm trying to remember if R1 would have meant like even bigger lot sizes versus R2, or what the biggest difference is.
Yeah, R1 is 9,600 square feet, R2 7,000 square feet.
And so just having the flexibility of the mix of lots within this would have guided us towards the R2 recommendation.
It's
or
just what the
ask.
applicant proposed.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. The ask comes from the applicant. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. This time, any testimony from the applicant?
Good evening, Your Honor and Council. Scott Becker with Hodgin Associates, 405 South Washington. There's not much I can add to what Mike said. He covered pretty much every aspect of this. It's a large development, and so there was a lot to consider. And we've worked with staff to get through most of the issues before you saw it. So hopefully I can answer any questions that you might have.
Can I ask the same question, Mr. Mayor? Sure. What's inspiring the applicant to ask for R1 versus R2 zoning?
Nope. R2 instead of R1.
R2, yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
it was more of a continuation of the other areas around there were all R2, and we just thought that made sense to keep it R2. So
Love it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Is the applicant prepared to meet all 8 of those conditions?
yes.
And so you're not going to come back and say like, oh, this is too hard.
No, no, obviously there's a few things we have to work through with the water and the sewer, but we believe that, like I said, these are a little bit larger lots, so there's not as many of them. I don't believe we'll overwhelm the system for the sewer. We've been working through the water issues. That area needs boosted, and so there's some consideration with that whole kind of corner of town. So we've been working with engineering to get that taken care of. So yeah, I don't see, obviously prices can shoot through the roof, and it might stay platted before it's developed for a year or so. But otherwise, the intention is to get rolling on it and get it taken care of, get it out there.
They just sounded like expensive conditions. So-
I mean, there's potential. It could potentially run into a real roadblock, but right now I don't anticipate huge costs with that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Scott. Now it's time for public testimony in favor of the development, annexation, et cetera. Yeah, come up, name and address, and yeah, please. You get to be on camera and on the record that way.
Okay, thanks. Your Honor, members of the council, other attendees, my name is Greg Bohach. I live at 300 Rose Court, which is the about half of a 4-acre plot between where the castle is located now and McDonald School, kind of up there on the hill. My wife and I developed that in 1993, and we moved out there. I'm very much in favor of this development. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I welcome the new neighbors up there. I've talked to other folks, Scott and others, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I guess my only concern has to do with the foot traffic, particularly the kids that are going to school at McDonald School and down at the middle school down there. And my son grew up over there, and he was able to kind of roll down the hill, and he was right at school. And I don't think the kids in this neighborhood will have that opportunity. I'm concerned about the foot traffic all the way up around Mosier. And I think it would be much better to put some kind of foot traffic adjacent to the tree farm, if possible. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
Further testimony in favor? Okay, public testimony in opposition. Public testimony of a general nature. You guys are catching on.
Hi, Katie Pelch, 1318 Ridgeview. I just had a question or comment. I don't know. This sounds like a good addition and probably much needed. I was just curious, given the ongoing discussions about the elementary sizes, if all of those students would be going to A.B. McDonald and what that means in terms of like capacity at A.B. McDonald and the other elementaries. So I have a son who nearly didn't get some of the services that he is afforded to him because there are issues with sizes of some of the spaces that are available in that school. And this presumably would be marketed to, families that have children. And so just thinking about that, taking that into consideration, like how does that shuffle around the elementary students? That's all.
That sounds like a question that should go to the school district. Yeah, I don't know how they'd handle all of that. Testimony of a general nature. Does the applicant want to have a rebuttal or response?
Once again, it's Scott Becker with Hodge and Associates, 405 South Washington. Not so much a rebuttal, just a little bit more information. The school question is a great question, and I don't have an answer to that. That's why I apologize. But the owner of the tree farm has been pretty adamant with me, and I think Mike as well, that he does not want anybody cutting through his property or giving up property along future D Street. So that might be something we can work through in the future, but he was pretty adamant that that was not a possibility. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Appreciate the clarification.
Yes.
Okay, at this point, we close the public hearing. And council, please deliberate in a step-by-step fashion for each of the actions as listed. First up being annexation.
Mr. Mayor, I visited with Mia before this meeting. I just want to publicly state I've known the Jusins my entire life. Her daughter-in-law was in my wedding. I was in their wedding, but I have no financial gain or any stake of any sort, anything from this. It's a small town, but I figured if you guys see me around town, it's because I know Pam and Joe. Figured I'd start there.
We've got a series of actions to take. So the first one is the annexation.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Who won?
Julia won. She just climbed a mountain. I didn't.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Drew.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Bryce.
Aye.
And Haley.
Aye.
Okay, so we have ordinance number 2024-6. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing that land described in Section 2 of this ordinance be annexed to the City of Moscow, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for the ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after passage, approval, and publication according to law. Okay, that's number 1.
Off to number 2, I'm guessing.
Yes, it's the proposed land use designation resolution.
I move that we approve the proposed comprehensive plan use designation resolution and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
You got through the whole sentence before you ran out of breath.
No, just barely, but.
Okay. And second down there? Yep. Okay, discussion? Okay, Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
and Drew.
Aye.
Okay, so that one passes as a resolution. On to number 3.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings and that it be read by title and published by summary, and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
I'll bet this is ordinance number 7. Okay,
We need to vote.
yep. So this time it's you.
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
and Haley.
Aye.
Okay. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the rezoning of a 22.93 acre property described in Section 2 from Ag Forestry AF to moderate density single-family residential R2, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Okay, now on to number 4.
Sure.
Your Honor, I move we approve the preliminary plat for Pine View Addition with the 8. Now, are there 8 or are there 9?
There'd be 9 with
There's
staff's
9.
addition. yeah.
Okay, so this is incorrect?
I think if you keep reading, it says 8 plus the additional condition recommended by staff,
But it kept going.
I believe. Like,
9 up there, 8 here. Okay, so I'm going to reiterate that I move we approve the preliminary plat for Pine View Addition with the 8 conditions recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the additional condition recommended by staff, and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Seconded by Sandra.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question about this one. Mike, can you pull up, I'm curious about, I think, is it number, I'm curious about the pedestrian ask, and I just need the visual back. Thank you. Okay, so I think it's number 8 in the condition, is that right? 8 or 7 or 8? Okay, so at our northernmost green line, that dumps them at the back of the tree farm.
Yeah, it'd be the southern boundary of the tree farm there. Originally, we had the condition that it be extended from the cul-de-sac. It turns out that this is more topographically
Yeah.
challenged in this area. There's already going to be an easement here. And so we were just recommending, there's certainly some flexibility there. It could be shifted over, but it looked like this was the most gentle slope to be able to extend it south and north.
Okay, that helps. And because we received in our packet some of the public comment from the folks affiliated with the tree farm, and I understand their concern. I'm trying to understand, just because the easement is there does not necessarily mean that we are going to be seeing an immediate dead-end path encouraging foot traffic that way. Is it requiring, it is the pathway requirement or just the easement requirement?
It'd be the easement as well as the construction of the sidewalk that would terminate. So we've had that discussion internally with Parks, and we're willing to put signage, pretty much saying that it's a dead-end path and doesn't extend at this point. To my understanding, the tree farm and potentially a fence. So
And then my last question, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, the one we've got on the northwest corner, the undeveloped right there is direct to Motion Park, is that right? On this, the little stub, that one.
correct,
be-
yeah.
okay.
There's no sidewalk there. It's a fairly steep slope, but this was dedicated when Mosier Park was dedicated as well. So it's actually a sliver of right-of-way that extends to the cul-de-sac
Gotcha.
currently.
And so I'm inferring that that is to help funnel some of this residential traffic because there's further Mosier parking in the plan, like down and around off screen, right? There will be
We have some plan in Rolling Hills 10th on-street parking.
Okay.
It's going to be challenging getting into the park because it's more of a bowl shape. So we have on-street parking that'll be developed, even though there's no on-street parking allowed in collector streets.
Oh, right, okay.
We widen the street on that segment to allow for parking for the park.
Yeah, that path seems like a reason. The one towards Mosier makes sense, given the geographical constraints, and to prohibit us from having an abandoned, what do we call it? Game trail, tropical, ancestral game trail. I guess as I'm verbally processing this, I'm still a little bit nervous about us, a bit of the requirement going so far as to require the applicant to do a sidewalk that may, even with signage, may still encourage traffic in the direction of private land. But if I remember right, there's some other difficulties with replacing a path down the hill on the other side of the cul-de-sac terminus straight down to D Street, because you're still dumping them on something that the city doesn't have jurisdiction over. Is that right? Up north off the screen, we couldn't have that path be up and over, right? Because D Street doesn't exist there.
Right.
It does, and we have a utility easement that extends to serve this subdivision, but yeah, there's no right of way where we could put a pathway across that as of right now.
Groovy. Thank you. That's my discussion heartburn, folks.
I do have a clarifying. So for that, for when we butt up against the tree farm, you said something about some signage. Would you clarify that for me? You said you had talked to David Schott about something.
We
and
had
I
just
lost it
discussed this
after that.
internally about placing some type of signage which states that private property, the pathway does not continue. This is private property, no trespassing, at on the street level as well as towards the end of the path there.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. That's what I was hoping you'd tell me.
Okay. Got a motion and a second out there.
We do.
So Julia.
Aye.
Bryce. Aye. Haley.
No.
Drew.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Okay, that one passes. Okay, so we're done with this one and moving on to the next. Number 8, public hearing for Wild Rose Court annexation, comprehensive plan, land use designation, zoning designation, planned unit development, and preliminary plat. Mike, you're on again. The public hearing rules remain the same. Presentation, questions, comments by the applicant, public testimony in favor and opposition in general, followed by response by the applicant, and followed by council deliberation. So all yours, Mike.
Thank you again, Your Honor, Council. So the proposal before you tonight is the Wild Rose Court proposal. There's an annexation, comp plan designation, zoning designation, PUD, as well as a preliminary subdivision plat. This is the subject property. It's 2.53 acres in size, highlighted in the maroon center of your screen. You can see Flomer Lane here to the north, Lundquist Lane. This is State Highway 8, Ridgeview Second Edition. Is located here to the west, which is currently under construction for Phase 3. This has been constructed up to this point, so Ridgeview, Roxbury, and Wild Rose Drive. And then currently in the process of constructing homes. This aerial is about a couple years old, so it just shows some of the first homes under construction there. So just a closer view of the property, forms a horseshoe kind of shape. There's a single-family home here on Flomer Lane, as well as a shop that's located on the property. This is primarily residential uses which surround, some rural and then some within the city, primarily single-family. So the applicant's Providenza LLC, and they're proposing those 5 actions for this property. The first is the annexation. The second is the proposal to retain the current comp plan designation, which much like the last proposal is auto urban residential. And then a rezoning from the R1, which is the low density single family zone, to the moderate density single family residential zone, which is the R2 designation. There's a PUD, so planning and development, and a preliminary plat associated as well. proposing 16 lots ranging from 3,000 to 10,666 square feet in size, served by a private street. Pathway connection exists or proposed to the northwest of the property. And then there's an open space parcel associated as well. So it brings us to the comp plan designation, auto urban residential. I know that we need to cover this. We just covered this in the last proposal, so I think everybody's got a pretty good idea what that is.
Tuned in.
Looking at the zoning configuration of the area, subject properties R1 within Ridgeview Second. There's a combination transitions from R3, which allows twin homes and townhouses and single family adjacent to the highway, transitions to an R2 and then an R1. So Southgate addition with Hampton Court as well as Notting Hill Drive is R1 designation, as well as primarily the properties within the county. Proposal is the R2 designation. I think we already covered this before in the last proposal, so I think everybody's got a good idea what the R2 zone encompasses. So it brings us to the Wild Rose Court subdivision. It's 2.53 acres, so those 16 lots ranging from 3,000 square feet to 10,666 square feet in size. The R2, again, minimum lot size is 7,000 square feet for single-family dwellings, and then 60 feet for minimum lot width. So this is the preliminary plat. You can see Wild Rose Drive, currently stubbed to the subject property, transitions into a private street. So it'd be Wild Rose Loop, I believe would be the proposal. So loops around, you have 15 lots, which are directly adjacent to the private drive, as well as the 16th here in the northeast corner. This is the property that's adjacent, that's not affiliated with this proposal. And then this is a open space parcel here to the northwest. The pathway continues to Hampton Court to the northwest, where there's already a pathway that currently exists. Tract A is the stormwater detention parcel, and that's located here to the south. So the applicant's requesting a PUD to coincide with the plat and requesting numerous zoning code deviations to accommodate smaller lot sizes and more compact development. 15 of those lots would have a similar style of single-family home constructed on the property. So approximately 1,500 to 1,600 square feet floor area for those dwellings. And then 3-story design with a lower level partially daylighted on one side to follow the contours of the property, with multiple floor plan options available per floor. So that brings us to the site plan for the PUD. You can see the building footprints there. They're a little bit larger than the darker line here. That's just showing the footings, foundation. There are porches, make a little bit more sense once we see the elevations, but looking a little bit larger there. This kind of gives you an idea of the scale of the lots and the homes as opposed to the adjacent subdivisions. So this is geo-referenced on the aerial. You can see the Wild Rose Drive connection, then it loops around and the building footprints there. And then give you an idea of the connection as well. This is the pathway, connects to the existing pathway here, and then Hampton Court. So this will be the proposed elevation. This is the front. So partially daylighted, 3 stories, more of a shed roof design, alternating hardy board siding, more of a modern look. This would be the north elevation, south elevation, and then some conceptual images of what these would look like. So it brings us to the floor plan. So this is lower level, partially daylighted. So this is option A. So essentially a double compact car garage. There's a rec room, laundry, bathroom. This would be another option, which would include a bedroom. And then one more option that has an office, workshop, storage area, and a single car garage. I guess there's a final option, has a rec room, bedroom 3, and then a single car garage, bathroom, and laundry room as well. So this is the main level. This is the main living area. So there's the kitchen, living area, and dining area, bathroom, and then an outsized raised deck. This would be another option. I think the only thing that's changed is a fireplace insert there. And then a third option would include a framed-in office in the floor plan. So this is the upper level. So you have a primary bedroom, a second bedroom, hallway, bathroom, outside porch. Second option, so a couple bedrooms, bathroom, and an additional bathroom and walk-in closet. And then just a little bit different of a layout of the bathroom on that option. So looking at setbacks, this is the distance from the building to the property lines. So the front within the R2 zone is 20 feet, the rear is 20, the side is 5, but both sides have to equal 15. The applicant's proposing a slight reduction, so the front would be 13 feet, the rear would be 15, and then the side would be 5, not having the combination of 15, just 5 on each side, so it'd be a combination of 10. Looking at the base density for PUDs, our R2 zone, it's 4.8 dwelling units per acre base density, 6.32 dwelling units per acre proposed within this development, so a 32% bonus density is required. Going through the bonus densities proposed by the applicant, common open space, up to 10% maximum bonus may be awarded if at least 20% of the PUD area is devoted for functional common open space in excess of any open space required elsewhere in the code. The applicants proposed to dedicate approximately 10% of the total area to open space. So it's staff's recommendation that a 5% density bonus be awarded for that. Sustainable development practices, 15% is maximum awarded. Applicants propose the following measures. So wall cavities netted and blown, resulting in R23 rating for the insulation, Energy Star rated windows and HVAC system, Energy Star efficient appliances, sufficient framing methods, on-site recycling for construction materials, locating the HVAC system in living space envelope, not in the garage, and the use of local materials and or environmentally preferred products. And so it's staff's recommendation that a 12% density bonus should be awarded for that category. Pedestrian and bicycle connectivity, maximum 10% may be awarded for increasing pedestrian, bicycle, or vehicle connectivity between the proposed development and existing and or future neighborhoods. The applicant slightly exceeded the parkland dedication requirement chosen to develop the pathway instead of traditional parkland, so staff's recommendation that a 5% bonus should be awarded for that. Landscaping plan, 5% maximum may be awarded if the applicant provides a landscaping plan significantly in excess of the minimum landscaping otherwise required by the code. The applicant's proposed a landscape plan that retains existing landscaping and exceeds the landscaping requirements required by the code. But in order to achieve the full 5% density bonus, it's staff's recommendation that a landscape plan needs to be provided for each lot as well as the entrance to the subdivision. And then the maintenance of existing land contours, vegetation, or other special site features, maximum of 10% may be awarded based upon the amount of site disturbance, including whether there's minimal or slight disturbance, whether there's excavation other than for structural foundations, whether streets follow contours of the land, the amount of grading, and whether there's removal of natural vegetation. So the applicants designed the site to minimize the amount of site disturbance, as well as design the single-family dwellings to be daylighted on one side in order to preserve the contours of the site. So staff's recommendation that a 5% density bonus should be awarded. So looking at our totals for the different categories, would total 32%, which is what the applicant needed for the total density bonuses for the proposal. The street network surrounding Wild Rose Circle is a private street, 28-foot wide street section, curb and gutter on both sides of the street, sidewalk and on-street parking on one side of the street. And Flomer Lane's a county road, approximately 20-foot wide gravel roadway. There are existing water mains within Wild Rose Drive. They're proposed to be extended into the subdivision. The water line's extended throughout the property as well as to the east property. And so it's reasonably anticipated that the property directly to the east could potentially be divided maybe into 2 or 3 different lots and annexed into the city. So we wanted to extend water service in order to be able to facilitate that should that occur in the future. Looking at our comprehensive water system plan, the property is considered developable. Wild Rose Drive, they're proposed to be extended into the subdivision. And the 2011 comprehensive sewer system plan, the existing system is adequate to serve the additional flow. And the properties within the Southeast Sewer District, which require consent from the district to connect. There is 50 to 75% pipe capacity in the district, depending upon the location. And then storm sewer will be piped and directed to the stormwater detention pond. I pointed that out earlier. It's the southern portion of the property near the entrance of the proposed subdivision. Detention facilities, of course, need to meet our stormwater runoff control standards. Parkland dedication, 1.46 acres of net developable land. R2 requires 5% dedication. There's a 3,177 square foot dedication requirement. Applicants proposed a 20-foot wide corridor and construction of an 8-foot, pathway for a total parkland dedication of 3,202 square feet. Pathways Commission reviewed the proposal February 13th of this year. They recommended approval as proposed. And the Parks and Rec Commission reviewed the proposal as well. Happened on February 22nd, and they recommended approval also. And with that, brings us to the recommendation. Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing for the proposed comp plan, designation, rezone, PUD, and preliminary plat, and that occurred on March 27th of this year, and they recommended approval with 6 conditions. Staff's recommendation that the council conduct the public hearing and upon the annexation, comp plan designation, zoning designation, PUD, and plat, and upon consideration of any testimony presented, approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules. The annexation ordinance is approved. Approve the proposed comp plan land use designation resolution and adopt P&Z's RCS. If those aforementioned documents are approved, approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete separate readings, and adopt P&Z's RCS. And then if everything else is approved, approve the PUD for the Wild Rose Court with the following condition and adopt P&Z's RCS document. And that condition is, in order to achieve the full 5% density bonus for landscaping, the applicant shall expand the landscape plan to include landscaping on individual lots in the entrance to the subdivision. So if all those aforementioned documents are approved, approve the preliminary plat for Wild Rose Court Edition with the following 5 conditions and adopt P&Z's RCS document. The first one, proposed subdivision should be analyzed in the city's water system model to verify the current design will have adequate potable and fire flow requirements. And if there are deficiencies, the applicant shall be responsible for construction of the improvements needed to adequately serve the subdivision. The applicant shall gain approval of the Southeast Sewer District to accept sanitary sewer water in a form acceptable to both the city and the district. The applicant shall dedicate 10 feet of right-of-way along the Flomer Lane frontage of the subject property in order to accommodate the construction of a local street per city standards in the future, in the event it becomes necessary to do so. And the applicant shall be required to conduct a detailed stormwater discharge analysis to include any mitigation actions necessary to ensure that the stormwater facility shall have no downstream adverse impacts subject to the approval of the city engineer. And lastly, the applicant shall extend the water main currently terminating at Lot 13 to the south to connect with a water main within Wild Rose Court to improve water quality and redundancy in the subdivision. I believe that's it. So certainly be able to try to answer any questions you have.
Okay, questions? Thank you, Julia.
I have 2 questions. One, what is the issue with the Southeast Sewer District in that area? Because I remember getting some information from people at Wild Rose Court that they felt like they were being double charged or.
This is kind,
Does that,
could you weigh in on this, Mia?
I
This
just
is ex parte communication.
I'm sorry.
no, it was not about, this.
It was
like a
previous to
year
other
ago.
things.
Yeah,
It was another
it was like a
email
year
from a
ago.
different.
Okay.
So if I can provide just a little bit of overview. So the Southeast Sewer District was formed in the late 70s, early 80s. That area of Carmichael, Lenville, I think at that point in time, there were septics that were failing and they needed to get sanitary sewer service. So there was a district created at that time. There have been since that point, there've been developments that have happened that have been annexed into the city, but still discharged to them because that's the downstream flow. It flows down through their system, down Linville to West Palouse River Drive to a lift station. Then it hits a force main and it goes from there to Mountain View, then pumps north over Mountain View, and then essentially by the cemetery, once it gets into the gravity system, it carries through the city's receiving gravity system. At the time the district was created, there was an agreement that the city entered into with the district to accept, receive, and treat their waste. And then there is a $3 billing surcharge that is currently charged. And then that agreement was amended in 2016 when Ridgeview Second Edition was proposed, where we had area that was outside the district service area that was now going to be flowing through their system. So that amendment to the agreement in 16 allowed for the pass-through of city flow through their system. Ridgeview 1 is in their service area and in the city. Ridgeview Second is in the city but not in their service area. And then this little portion here is in their service area because the Flomer and Lundquist areas are in their service area and will also be in the city. So we have the 16 amendment was to allow flow outside the district in the city to flow through the district, then back to the city through the force main to allow that to occur. We also renegotiated some of the connection fees. So if somebody was in Ridgeview Second Edition, they paid I think 170% of the city's connection fee for utilities for sewer service. And then the district was given a portion, the city retained a portion. That was an amendment that happened to the 16 agreement so that the district could receive some monies from those connections to be able to pay for any capital repairs that the system may incur. The city generally operates and maintains the sewer system. That's part of the agreement is we are accepting their waste. We also operate the system in the district as well. So we maintain it, we clean it, we repair the lift station pumps when they fail.
I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah. It'd be better if I had a map and some diagrams.
There
But
was an issue with different sewer district and jurisdiction.
And that current agreement that was amended in 2016, it will be coming up in 2026. I actually met with the board here just about 2 weeks ago to talk about renewing that agreement and some of the things we might want to look at changing in this next iteration of that agreement.
Thank you. My second question is if you can remind me when there's a private street, then that they form a homeowners association for plowing and all that stuff. So we have no input really into how that street's maintained. It's all part of the homeowners district.
Homeowners Association would be,
Association, I mean,
would
sorry,
be responsible as well as the open space. That wouldn't be the cities either. I mean, the pathway would, but the open space parcel would be Homeowners Association. They would need to maintain that.
Okay. And I assume that there's enough space for the fire truck to turn around in that circle?
There is, yeah. I mean, we have a private street standard. It meets this. They've actually exceeded that in order to provide on-street parking on one side of the street. So,
Okay. Those are my questions.
I think I just have one clarifying question. Mike, is the one with the path in the top left corner, that is the park dedication for this?
the pathway, and then you can't, well, we'll see if we can see.
Because does that go to a county street or a city street? I don't remember.
There's currently a pathway that connects, so it would have to be paved and it connects to Hampton Court.
Okay.
So there's already a pathway in Southgate second subdivision that connects there. So this would be, it'd be an open space parcel. So that was part of their bonus density is the open space. And so this would be maintained by the homeowners association, both sides. And then we have this parkland dedication. You can see it noted right there.
Thank you.
That this space is the parkland. Yep.
And then my only other question, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I was trying to find it in the notes from the, I think, Transportation Commission. There's some comments in here about the concern about added traffic onto Highway 8. And my understanding is just that it's something that we know the state has jurisdiction over and will have to work through. And were there any, I didn't glean anything, including from the findings, about what the city could put as far as restrictions, or if there's concerns about traffic flow impacting that turn onto Highway 8 going through. So what am I trying to ask? Were there any, with the traffic studies and the modeling, are we seeing enough numbers that we as council should be ready to talk and ask ITD for a turn lane or something at Highway 8? Because that would fall into the city's jurisdiction, right?
Well, the improvements planned for Highway 8 connecting to Roxbury would include a turn lane.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working through ITD with that connection right now. It's been ongoing for a number of years.
Yeah, I figured it was a long conversation. Okay, excellent. That's what I got. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
This might be the dumb question for the evening. Will you show me on one of those maps where the Southeast Sewer District is located in relation to this development? Is that, everybody got quiet and I heard some giggling. So it might be the dumbest question, but I can't orient myself at all. And so if you can help me.
Well, I mean, it's just like Bill had described, it's just a large area where the sanitary sewer lines extend and then ultimately extending to Palouse River Drive through our, essentially connecting to our lift station there.
If I may, so if you start in the bottom left corner,
Yeah.
the district boundaries on the kind of the north side of the highway right away, because there's a main that runs down on the north side of the highway. And what's shown is kind of Ridgeview, Wild Rose, Cypress, the Ridgeview second edition is not in it.
Okay.
If you were to go to the west of that addition to the existing developed neighborhood of Ridgeview 1,
Right.
there on the left-hand side, that is in. The district was amended. It wasn't in the initial district, but it was amended at the time Ridgeview was developed to add it to the district service area. And then it jogs pretty much up the city limit boundary. So the purple dashed line, other than it's running kind of on the north side of the highway rather than the south as the city limits, it runs up and goes off the screen. It includes a large portion of Parker Farm and Parker Road until it gets down essentially and then runs down south. The eastern boundary is Lenville.
Okay.
And it goes Lenville down to Palouse River Drive, Palouse River Drive back over to encompass like the mobile home parks there on Carmichael, Lenville, that area.
Okay, thank you. That gives me kind of a perspective to one versus the other. Thank you very much.
I don't think it was a dumb question.
That was a good
Thanks,
question.
guys, I was like totally clueless. It was confusing. Okay.
Okay. Applicant here to come up and provide some added knowledge.
All right. Once again, Scott Becker with Hodge and Associates, 405 South Washington. I believe Mike covered everything, but a little bit of background. When the developer was looking at this property, they were going to try to divide it into 5 lots with just a cul-de-sac in the middle of that. Maybe even keep it in the county. Well, since we're in the area of impact and some issues, that didn't work. So we reduced it to 3 lots, thinking that we could maybe make that work. Once again, that one didn't fly. So the city was asking for more density, and I believe we've met the more density. And really, that's about the only way to make this pencil out, is to have that much density in this lot. It's a little bit challenging to develop. The only other issue that we were running into is just making sure that the stormwater was captured on the site and does not flow to the south onto those other properties. So we're real cognizant of that. We've got a redundant overflow line just to make sure that anything, we get the 100-year storm that doesn't overflow the system and impact the neighbors. So that's how we got here. In a quick nutshell, I know you guys have spent a long enough sit through on this project. So, but I can answer any other questions that you might have.
I mean, I think, hi, thank you for that, Scott. I do appreciate it. And I mean, I appreciate a little bit of the lightness by saying it is pretty dense. And I'm curious, is it too dense? Is it too much in this small acreage size? Was there any ever chatter of not not trying to go for 15 units, but maybe 10, or like why was well, I guess 16 is the total lots, but 15 for dwellings, right? Well,
Yeah, we were able to squeeze a couple more lots on there, but then with the bonuses, we couldn't make the bonuses work. So we reduced it actually from 18 to 16.
okay.
And there was people earlier this evening that were saying that, that's one of the deficiencies in the city is, housing that's, this is not going to be affordable housing, but it's a price mark that's going to be lower than the first subdivision you looked at tonight. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
yeah, hope that answers your question.
It does.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. I'll
Good.
be here.
okay. Right now, public testimony in favor. Okay. When we come to public testimony in opposition, we have a note from Scott and Ruth Butler that has been provided to the council members and will be entered into the record of the meeting as well. So testimony basically in opposition to the development. Further testimony in opposition.
Hi, JJ McCauley, 1412 Roxbury Drive. First want to say I appreciate the response that I got from Councilman Bryce to my email after the March 27th meeting, and to Cody Riddle, the Deputy City Supervisor, who met with me after that to talk through a few things. Obviously, this is a very emotional situation for a lot of us. We moved to Moscow in October of 2022 from Eugene, Oregon, where we saw lots of developments like this on all available green spaces in Eugene. I want to give you a few numbers: 25%, 32%, and 67%. In the relevant criteria and standards, it says the proposed PUD is compatible with the character and uses in the surrounding area. Is a 25% setback reduction. That was not mentioned today. That means that from my backyard, where I have put a fence, 15 feet from my fence, a new structure will go up, which is 25% reduction to city code, as well as a 32% increase in the density to R2. I think semantics and playing with the numbers show you that you can get to the density, but it's really, let's talk about it. It is not R2. It's close, it's in between R2 and R3, which is not compatible with the character and uses of the surrounding area. In particular, it's a 67% reduction in the minimum lot size needed for R2. I don't know what the minimum lot size is for R3, but my guess is it's probably closer to 3,000 than it is to 7,000. In addition to that, we just heard that there needs to be an HOA. I have not seen any covenants for any HOA to understand exactly what's going to happen there. And with the housing that's being proposed in the pictures that we just saw, my backyard and my main dwelling will be at eye level to their porches. We moved here and bought this house because of the view and because we knew that that was going to be developed. But little did we know that we were going to have up to 3 houses immediately in our backyard. That would have changed the way that we did things, and I think that it's appropriate for this council to at least require the developer to install privacy fences if you move forward with this plan. In addition to that, I really believe that this is not compatible with the character and use, and I think it should be outright rejected and gone back to the drawing board to address the concerns around, is this a proper density, which I truly believe it's not.
Thank you. Further testimony in opposition.
Hi, thank you. Katie Pelch, 1318 Ridgeview. Building on what JJ just said, I agree that the density here, it's too much. So I live in one of the homes that are currently You can see there on the map. You can see, like, even in that R1 section, there aren't even 16 homes in a much larger place. So I agree that it is not within the characteristic and the existing setting of the area. I'm really concerned. This was the first, when I had seen the drawings before, I apologize. I thought that they were single car garages. But even with 2-car garages and that much density and allowing parking on one side of the street, one of our concerns is being on the corner that there's just going to be a lot of increased traffic through Ridgeview and up through Notting Hill, and that any people who can't find parking in their space are then going to be parking on Wild Rose, Roxbury, and Ridgeview, regardless of the fact that there are no parking signs throughout that space. People park wherever they would like to park as it is. It is also really frustrating as a homeowner to think that that space is going to be, somewhat developed, and 5 homes is very, very, very different from 16 homes when you're moving here. And as JJ said, to have that blocking their view. So those are my biggest concerns, just that it is not within the character of the neighborhood and the increased traffic, especially considering that we just heard that the connection to Highway 8 is not within anybody here's jurisdiction or capacity to move along more quickly. So if you come down Wild Rose, I take my life in my hands. I feel like every time I turn right out of Wild Rose and Ridgeview, because it's not shown on this map, but the line of sight is really terrible. So it's very, very imperative that we get that connection completed there at Highway 8 in Roxbury. I think that's it.
Thank you. Further testimony in opposition?
Hello, I am Roy Derrick, and I live at 1418 Roxbury, which is also one of the properties that is going to be right up against this new development. And basically, like everybody else has said, I bought my lot to have a little bit of space. I'm going to have 2 of these houses that are going to be 30 feet plus straight up right outside of my property, 15 feet from my property line, looking down into my backyard. I mean, it's literally going to limit what I use my backyard for. The sunlight, the shape of the buildings is going to prevent sunlight from even coming into my backyard until 10 o'clock in the morning. But then there's a couple other things I do want to bring up. Some of them's been kind of highlighted already. One of the things I know you're supposed to be looking at is safety. And I'm looking again at the connection that's going to go from Roxbury onto Highway 6. Last year in in August, I think it was, several of us met with one of the people from the city, and we were told about that connection and told that the new lots that's being built on Cypress Court were not going to be given permits until that connection is made. But now all of a sudden they're going to be adding 16 more houses into the same streets that they don't even have the ability to build out yet. It just doesn't seem right. Okay, the second thing that I see that you guys are supposed to be looking at is the compatibility with the existing networks. We've been told by the developer that they were required or encouraged to go with high density. But then yet the, Pine View subdivision that was approved earlier this evening, those lots are going to be larger. There was no pressure for them to go high density. So why does this development have to be, I'm going to say, super high density? It just doesn't make sense. If they are pushing for high density, shouldn't that other development have been high density also? Now, the other thing I want to bring up is, again, talking about the high density. Around Moscow, there's several developments that have already been considered high density. 3 of them that I've seen is there's one that's right next to the USDA office off of Indian Hills. There's several houses that are down on White Avenue. You know, when you go up over the top of Notting Hill Drive, and you come down to the roundabout that then connects in with White Avenue, going down along White Avenue there's several what would be I would consider high density. And then when you go up Mountain View to about 3rd Avenue, there's a series of, I'm going to call them little duplexes that are 2 stories. But all these other high density developments are all 2 floors. There's nothing wrong with the 2 floors. You don't have it, you still can at least see the sky out of your property. And so that would be one of my recommendations on this, is that they should be allowed to go no more than 2 floors, especially on the houses that are going to be right next to the existing properties. Like, kind of summing it up, would you want to walk out your back door and literally be looking at a wall that extends almost all the way across your property that's 30 feet tall, just straight up? That's what we're going to be looking at. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further testimony in opposition? A testimony of a general nature. Okay, response from the applicant.
Guys, how's it going? 103 North Blaine, Dave Dale. Again, I feel like we are taking a lot of lumps here based on size, based on super density, and some really fancy statistics. But I think what it comes down to is when I approached originally, it was shot down in about 4 different ways. And I think we need to remind people that this is Moscow. It's a very welcoming place. And we've been asked over and over by people I went to high school with that didn't just move here from Eugene to get them something that's a little bit more affordable that they can buy and move into, that isn't a row of houses like R3 that I can see on the map right above Troy Road. That's going to be row houses. So I guess I'll stop there. I'm reading a book called Power, and one of it is saying less than you're thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, basically, we've done our best here, going from meetings with Mike, I think about 2 years ago, to meetings with Mari, to meetings with Mike, to meetings with Mike and Mari. It's been quite the education for me. I'll be ready to build my super golf course someday. But in the meantime, if this is shot down and I have to go back to planning again, I'm thinking either a Top Golf or maybe renting out trailers all down the west side, especially. Any questions for me?
Anybody? Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
thank you.
I'm sorry, I had to go pick up a kid. Can I?
No, we're already past those.
Which segment?
1412 Roxbury.
Yeah, but we've
Favor
had,
or opposition or general?
And I sent in pictures. You've got them in your packet. I just had to go.
so,
Karina?
Yes.
so I think we've seen in the packet your topics, and so
Can I give you a quick explanation? Because they mean nothing without.
Yeah. we got to stick with the legislative protocol here as established by the state legislature. Once you get past a point, it's done and can't go back. So we could have squeezed you in under general, except the applicants come up to provide the response. And so I hate to do it, but we can't go backwards because that's what the state legislature says this kind of hearing has to be. So at this point, the hearing is closed and the council has to go forth and deliberate. So who wants to deliberate first?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if I'm allowed to reference this guy. Well, I guess it's a public hearing, so now it's a
Part of the
public record,
you
right?
can reference it.
And I just wanted to further clarify, we received an email from JJ, and just to further clarify how we do things. And I also want to say, like, we are your peers and community members, and I know it can be a really emotionally charged thing. My parents, their backyard now oversees the new school development, and I grew up seeing hills, and it's not going to look the same anymore. So I want you to know, like, I understand. I also want to share the reason we were not able to visit the site, the reason we are not able to reply to you by email in any specific detail is because this is one of the few times where we act as a quasi-judicial body and everything has to be in the public forum. And so us not replying in a full chorus was not meant to be a snub in any way. It is just, we are under a lot of pressure, as the mayor alluded to, even with how we had to handle the testimony. We're under a lot of pressure and restraints on how we conduct this business. And so everything has to stay above board. So I just wanted to offer that for my starting thought.
And it's not that we didn't read it or see it.
Yes. Yeah.
But back to the,
Sorry. So back to the task at hand. Yes, the reason that we are looking at my understanding and from reading what staff's recommendations that this makes sense for high density. There is an increased need. I feel better about it being not a through street proposal with it looking high density like this, because I would hope that we'd see some pretty contained migration behavior of the day to day. I am struggling with, piecing together. It is infill, and in general best practices, infill is encouraged and should be high density or mid density. And I also struggle because what we're seeing with folks in the county who are writing to us, the city goes through a very rigorous plan talking about area of impact, knowing that in general you should expect the city to grow around its perimeter. And so I feel the heartburn about buying a lot at the edge of town. But also, I'm not sure, it sounds like if there's been previous approvals that haven't even gotten to this point for us with less density, this sounds like there has been an honest effort from the parties, the private landowners coming to the city and working with the county and it not working out to find something to have this be a meaningful development. And other than private parties buying that land and not developing it, I'm not sure what other options are on the table because it is a private land right to develop it as they see fit within the city's purview. So I am leaning towards being in favor because I am a Moscow townie and I have friends who can't live and stay here. And my siblings can't afford to buy homes here. And high density is a solution to that. I'm going to be honest, I don't really like the look of them. They kind of look like weird little chateaus, but that is, I am not the private landowner. So there's my diatribe. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Drew.
Yeah, I think the one thing that if we look at just our city, but if you look at any city across really anywhere, either cities are doing one or two things. Either they're growing or they're shrinking. And so those bring two problems no matter where you go. I am in favor that I'd rather have the problems of growth rather than a city not growing. But with growth brings lots of pain points for people. And I understand that. When I first moved to Moscow, actually the subdivision of Wild Rose that had the existing there, many of the landowners didn't want the new current subdivision where people have testified tonight. They didn't want that because that was impacting their views. So my question to my council members is, where do we need to draw that line? And I don't think we do. We have to support growth. And I agree with what Haley's saying. We all have advocated for density. The developer's gone through significant lengths to even widening the street, not even a requirement, to make sure that on-site parking is possible. In a couple of years, when it's in this peripheral, Mike, you have the pointer, so you're going to be the point guy. The two legs that go up north, the property that sits in the middle right there, could you point to that? Are we not going to allow that because the people on that street don't like what's going up there? Where does the argument stop or end with that? And so I'm in favor. I get that there are strategies that you can do, but when you're in the area of impact, you need to plan for that. This is something that comes before council significantly, multiple times. And yeah, I'm in favor of what's being proposed.
Infill development is, as Drew said, and as Haley has said, and probably the other two people coming next will say, has been what we have all advocated for this whole time. I hear you completely about the wall. I too stare at my neighbor's bedroom window every morning. I have great curtains. It is my hope that since right now most of us are in favor of this, that the emotions on both sides can be used towards something constructive rather than divisive, because you are going to be within 15 feet of each other. And they are my neighbors, are our friends, they're our dog sitters, they are the people that we live next to. I wave to them in the morning. So there is an upside, but you're right, it's never easy, and growth is not comfortable all the time. And I'm sorry, but I'm in favor of this. I think it's important. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. It is growing pains. Do I want to wake up and see the neighbor's porch table right next to my eyeballs? Nope. But this is something that we, again, yes, we'll say it over and over. We have advocated for growth. And this is the way, area of impact, all of the things. I think it has to be done. It's heartbreaking, and I feel bad about that. I can imagine waking up and not enjoying the view that I wanted or ever anticipated. Maybe I don't see a mountain, but I sure probably never anticipated seeing right in the back of a house, right? But that is part of where we are, and it is an open area, and it's going to serve a lot of needs. And Haley, I think you really nailed it when you said that we have friends that are here and they want to stay here and they can't afford to stay here, and this helps them stay here. And so when you have to look at the overall output of what we do, I think this is the direction we have to go. It doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean it's not awful. It doesn't mean that every dagger you're shooting here is absolutely deserved. Yep, I totally get that. But we're representing the overall health and wealth of our city. This is the direction we do have to go. And it's a sad one. It's a frustrating one. It's also the right one.
Julia, Drew? Not Drew. Bryce.
Other guy.
He's better looking.
I just have a barely more hair.
Anyway, I'm not gonna lecture you. I think this is a good development. I think it meets the criteria. I think it's nice to have these smaller single family units, and I think that we all need to get used to the idea of mixed use development. The days of R1 suburbs are hopefully ending. And so I am happy to see a diversity of housing in the area. I know that's hard. I live in an area that's growing in town. I used to have this nice walk along farm fields. Now it's a bunch of apartments. That made me kind of sad. But if we stop growing our housing stock, none of us are going to be able to afford to live here. And so as painful as that is, we have to keep growing. And I think the way to do that is the mixed use development.
Bryce.
Roy, JJ, Katie, Karina. All right. Scott and Ruth from the letter. This is a really challenging decision. I've been on council for about 5 months now, and this is arguably probably the hardest issue that I've faced kind of on my short time on council. I've also served as the planning and zoning city council liaison, so I was there on the 27th meeting. And it's been helpful to hear my colleagues up here just kind of like work through their rationale as well and kind of how they're leaning and where they're voting. And I think for me, I'm definitely very nervous about the density of the 15 units and the size of them and the way that that's going to impact kind of how you exist and how you live in Moscow. Like that is hard for me to hear, hard for me to see. I respect that there is a need for more accessible and more affordable housing, even though I don't think would account for truly affordable housing, but at least more accessible housing for those maybe in the demographic that Haley's referencing, which I share in that demographic. And so I'm still kind of in that space of leaning towards yes, but also feeling the concerns of those that are expressing the opposition. That being said, I also am appreciative of the applicant going through the measures to make things energy efficient, making things kind of up and really go through the work for the incentivization of making these units environmentally more friendly than what we see in other developments. So I'm very appreciative of that. So with that, I'm still kind of in this moment of consideration. Those are my reflections at this moment, and we'll move forward here in a moment.
Mr. Mayor, hopefully this is just a quick refresher question to Mike. The previous attempts were to zone this and bring this either into city or online in county land. It was like 6 lots. What was it that didn't pencil out previously? Or maybe I don't know if I'm allowed to ask Scott that question, but I'm trying to remember what.
I believe it was 3 to 5 lots. It never actually advanced on the
Okay.
council. It just went to the Planning and Zoning
Right.
Commission. And then the applicant withdrew the application,
Gotcha.
so.
Okay.
So there are a series of actions here.
Your Honor,
Sir, you have to sit down. This is done.
Sir.
Down. No, plant it.
But I will tell you, I came here.
Mr. Mayor, I move.
I move to
I was
adjourn.
Yeah.
personally
recess.
attacked.
We recess.
Recess.
Ask yourself who you're.
tightly wound.
There we go.
Okay, we're back.
Your Honor, I move we approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Okay. Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
and Bryce.
No.
Okay, 5-1 passes. Number 8. Okay. Number 8, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing that land described in Section 2 of this ordinance be annexed into the City of Moscow, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Okay, that was number 1.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the proposed comprehensive plan use design resolution and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Drew. Okay, Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
No.
5-1, that one
Oh,
passes.
so, and Haley's and I. You're good. Haley's and I. You're good.
I'm
Yeah,
confusing
5-1 math still
myself with
tracks.
this roll calling. Okay, on to number 3.
I move that we approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
And
And adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relative criteria. Thank you.
Second.
Collaborative Council.
That's right.
Okay, Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
No.
Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
and Sandra.
Aye.
Okay,
We didn't second.
Mayor,
We didn't second.
Madam.
did you
Oh.
have a second?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, 2024-9, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the rezoning of an approximately 2.53 acre property described in Section 2 from low-density single-family residential R1 to moderate-density single-family residential R2, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Okay,
Your Honor, I move we approve the PUD for Wild Rose Court with 1 condition and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
5 conditions.
It says 1 here.
It does.
I've got the one that says.
5 is for
And?
the plat.
Yeah,
Oh,
5 is
okay.
for the plat. This is
Thank
just
you.
the PUD.
Good
PUD is
call.
just one.
Sorry. Okay,
Second.
okay. Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
No.
Haley,
No.
Drew,
Yes.
Sandra,
Aye.
and Gina.
Aye.
Okay, that one passes as well. On to number 5 that I mistook earlier.
Okay, hold on.
Great.
Rose and the blah, blah, blah. Your Honor, I move we approve the preliminary plat for the Wild Rose Court addition with 5 conditions and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Okay, Bryce,
No?
Haley,
No.
Drew,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Okay, that one goes through 2.
Julia. Julia.
Ah, Julia, damn it.
That's my middle name.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, my God. Okay, at this point, see, we're at a stopping point. We'll capture a quick 5-minute break. So we're in recess for 5 minutes. We're back at 10 after 9, according to the clock on the wall.
Thanks.
Okay, and we're back. Item number 9, which is professional services agreement, East City Park stage conceptual design. Cody Riddle, go.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. As you're all aware, the need to replace the stage at East City Park has been anticipated for a number of years. Unfortunately, it actually deteriorated much quicker than we anticipated. And as the parks and facilities groups were out there this spring getting things ready to go for the year, discovered significant rot to the extent that we needed to get that cover down immediately. So we still have the stage. The stage platform itself has been, repaired and is secure, but it's uncovered. So I think we were pretty fortunate in events like this past weekend to where we kind of got by. But in response, we've actually looked to advance the project or replacement of the stage in the capital improvement plan. With an eye to even replacing it, hopefully, depending on how this design study works out, as soon as start late fall, even next spring. But the design costs towards that aren't something that were anticipated or included in your fiscal year 2024 budget. And so we're here this evening to ask you for approval to enter into a professional services agreement with Design West Architects at a cost of $18,700. The professional services agreement was included in your packet. With that, we would advance the design to about 30% and get an updated cost estimate that would help inform ongoing outreach design efforts, again, with the eye towards hopefully replacing that stage as soon as next year. So there was, again, the agreement included in your packet, and we are asking for your approval this evening.
Cody, I do have a couple questions on this. I'm really excited that we're getting going, but I spent a fair amount of time on that stage this weekend, and a lot of folks talked to me about it, right? And one thing, I hope that Design West understands some of the reasoning of what is on that stage, like the covered area that holds equipment. I'm worried that they're just going to come up with a really pretty design that isn't super effective. And so I want to make sure that there are components that we already have there that either remain or are added onto, because they're really vital to almost all of the groups that work on that stage.
Yeah, I think you'll see in the agreement, there's actually scheduled in even into this effort. Well, first it'll build off of the design and outreach effort that occurred, about 10 years ago. We'll start from there, and there's an opportunity where we'll engage the bigger user groups, kind of like the group this weekend, even through this 30% effort to come up with that final design.
I needed other folks out there to know that, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions. Sure. I'm trying to understand, I'm looking at the agreement, Cody. I don't understand what 30% of a design agreement gets me versus I don't get 2%. Yeah, I'm not, we're just, is it?
Schematic. It's kind of a refined schematic really that helps you put some real truth to a cost estimate.
And this may be, I don't know who would have the answer to this question. Because I've also spent many hours at that park near that stage, on that stage. Was our last stage refresh funded by the city, or was it by private funds? We had received it. Let me start there. Was it funded by the city or by private funds to get us where it was currently?
It's my understanding that the one that was removed was largely through donations years ago, wasn't it?
Years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done
Peter Basso
maintenance
Memorial,
activities to
right.
it. So we've replaced repair decking and stuff over time. I think the roof structure was placed, I'm not sure what year.
I think it was late 80s.
I want to say
Yeah.
in the 80s.
And I think we had, slapped some stuff on top to keep it going. And then we took the bathrooms off the back. And then when we constructed the city bathrooms where they are, it was with this initial schematic in mind so that the stage would then pivot.
Yeah, there's some very early conceptuals are developed. So the bathroom is placed in a location where the back wall would form the back of the stage in the future when the new stage was constructed.
Okay. And then my last question, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay. This didn't go out for an RFP. Is that right? It's because it's under a certain percentage. And so.
Yeah, under 50,000 for design services, we can just directly hire an individual for.
And I see a lot of Design West. I'm curious if they have other stage experience, or is it just our existing relationship with them on other city projects that we went after them for this agreement? Or are they one of our preferred vendors? I don't remember how that works.
No, it was just they'd worked on this project previously. They did the bathroom
10 years.
design, they did the three alternatives, they did the public input collection and gathering last time. So logically, for us to expedite the process to get a more firm and current construction cost estimate, they seemed the logical firm to go with.
Dust off the plans from their files. Got it. Okay, I think those are all my questions for right now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
It's
nature of my mind. So this also entails just not the stage, but the new, they're going to be studying the new sitting area where people will be viewing performances, correct? If it's just not the stage in general.
Just the stage.
Just the stage, yeah. I mean, certainly there's the orientation out to the.
Yeah, the orientation, but they're going to, so where that's sitting with the hardscape, technically where the current stage is, they're going to, that's going to have to be.
Remediation.
There would certainly need to be some site modifications.
Other
to
site
accommodate.
modifications that are part of this initial 30%? Okay. I briefly looked through the contract. That it doesn't entail bringing in, they're going to be doing all the landscaping, studying that as well in later iterations, or this 30%?
So we're primarily focused at the stage right now. When we go to full construction design, we'd have the full site improvements included in that component.
We'd have to bring another.
Right. And so just my worry with that is, if we're gonna commit ourselves to this this rough schematic, what's the area of impact for the current landscape? That it's going to be where people will now be gathered, because it's naturally going to change based on the orientation of the structure. And so I know that's what it's for, but
Is it in this step scope? Is that what you mean?
no, I know it's not there. I would like some consideration for it to be there, because if we go through a 30% design, and then we get us through DD, design development, and we find that it impacts the landscape. I'm not saying that it is, but it's something I think we should think about. I want to know those considerations before we're really attached to this idea of where it's currently at.
So the prior concepts that were developed back in,
It says
refresh me,
2010.
2008, was it?
It says 2010.
Yeah.
Showed the seating area that went all the way up to the back of the playground.
Mhm.
So that's the area that they intended for the audience seating area.
But they're only going to be focusing on.
There weren't any hardscape improvements. It's intended to just be turf in that area, other than a small, I think, hardscape in front
In the
of the
front.
stage.
Okay.
So I don't think we're looking at extensive alterations to the landscape. It is trying to take advantage of the existing kind of bowl grade and increase that seating area, and then not have some of the trees that have been, in close proximity to the front of the stage.
Right. Yeah, because the current one is the
Correct.
trees. They're in the way. No, and I appreciate it. And from an orientation standpoint, I'm not opposed to it. I just don't want to get through a DD, design development, and we discover something. And so a lot can change in landscape in 10 years. And so it's also, from my perspective, not very difficult to study as an architect to see what that impact is. Very minimal costs, especially for almost 20 grand. I mean, it's 18 some change, but I think that's important. So.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not super stoked, actually, to be honest. I can remember when the bathrooms were being built, I was not thrilled about their location, but I actually have come to completely love the obscure nature of load in, load out for the stage footprint where it is. And I do worry about what we're going to pave over to have some sort of access in and out around the bathrooms. So I guess I'm not sure what I would, my ask for me to get on board with this would be for Design West, and this may be outside the 30%, to evaluate with our most frequent and reliable users of our facilities in the existing footprint, to ask for their input if it makes sense for us to not try to smack it on the back of the bathroom. And so I don't know if I'm concerned that we're talking about dusting off a plan that I don't like. And so I would like more discussion on this, or I don't know what this looks like, but I'm not excited to move forward with this as is. That's my 2 cents.
Anything from down on this side?
Is it part of the 30% to look at the optimal placing for the stage?
I mean, I
Or
think
are we dusting off the old plan?
our intent was not to, that had already been established in the prior efforts and designs. The bathroom was intentionally located
Right.
for that purpose. So we weren't stepping back. And that was always the intent, was that, the mechanical, the plumbing, electrical that's there for the bathroom would support the stage at a future phase of the development. So that's where we started from.
Yeah.
We didn't start blank slate saying, should we put it
Right.
on the east side of the park, or should put it someplace else? That was always the plan. That was the public input that was gathered, the 3 designs that were put out. And so that's where we started. If the council feels that old plan, you don't want it there, you think it should be someplace else, then we'll step back and we can start from ground zero and decide if we want to put it on the other side of the park.
I'm saying, can we save money by replacing exactly the footprint where it is for what the needs are? Like, do we even need to be talking about shifting anything? I'm saying take everything downward with the 2-piece format to whatever state you need it to be to put something new back up. I understand that's asking for ground zero, but also I probably wasn't a voting age when that first came around, and I've spent many, many, many long hours there, and I am curious, especially as I think we've seen more groups come online for more regular. I'm even thinking Inland Northwest with their Earth Day, and not just Rendezvous for Kids and Hemp Fest and Renaissance Fair. I am curious how we all feel with this new idea of keeping it 2 separate locations, because of it's actually a really good viewing experience having it be an obscured load in load out zone behind the stage where it's paved. So I'm not stoked.
I think all of us have spent a lot of time at East City Park. So and I think we've already collected the information on the different orientations and design, and I'm not sure why we would go back and reinvent and start all over, because I don't know what that gets us.
Yeah, and sorry, Sandra.
you're good.
Yes, and to be clear, I am for the location of where it's at. I just want to make sure that things are considered through that, and it's not ignored. We're just not focusing solely on the footprint. We're focusing on the user experience.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with what Julia is saying. It's been studied. I'm not asking for starting from ground zero. I know they've worked with different groups, and as Cody's mentioned, going to engage those other groups that use the stage. But oftentimes an unfortunate opportunity can lead to a better outcome for structure. So
Sandra.
I'm with Haley on this one. I really like how we have the ability to get cars in and out. And I see that anytime, and different events and all over the park that is utilized pretty magnificently. And I watched a lot of that this weekend. I've watched it at Rendezvous. I've watched it at kid art shows. I've watched it at poetry readings. It's really good accessibility. I feel like it was a long time ago that we actually looked at this, and I'm all for getting the stage built as soon as we can. I also want to make sure it's in the right spot, and I don't know that we know that right now. And if it's starting over, I'd want to make sure that the public, that was a long time ago, right? 2008, that was a while ago. And 2024 now, so it was a while ago. And I think the public may have different opinions now, and I think we should allow them to have that. It'd be like changing Friendship Square, being like, well, 15 years ago we looked at this, we're going to go with that. I think there'd be some uproar. And I think if we just move right along saying, hey, we have these plans in 2010, and let's go for it. I think there might be some uproar.
Yeah.
Right? I think this is a precious piece of what Moscow is, and I think we need to take a longer look and get more input, because that was too long ago to go with the judgment then.
In defense of what we're doing tonight, in defense of that, I can see the urgency of the need for a covered stage. And that's probably why this is here tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan of reinventing the wheel by any means. And I'm with Julia in that. I do feel like we've gathered this information. I think what we're asking for is going to cost us more money and delay. And so if you like that tent over the top of the stage this weekend, we're going to have a lot more of that.
It wasn't horrible for what it's worth.
Well, good until the wind really blows and this, anyway, but I guess I'm with Julia on this.
Remember what the purpose of this action is to approve the professional services agreement for a design.
So, Mr. Mayor, I guess if it's all right, my ask would be that within this 30%, if I can get a cost estimate, I would rather spend this $18,000, 700 on materials for the stage in its existing footprint to get it back to what it needs to be and not even do the design piece. That's what I'd rather have my tax dollars, whatever, go to.
We still have to design though the existing.
Yeah.
Yes, so my ask is, I can get on board if within what Design West does isn't just dust off this 2010 planning and what it would look like for us to do the existing footprint.
And if that was the council's desire, then do not approve this agreement tonight. We will have to rescope this. It'll take 6 months to go through that planning exercise and to decide what does the community want to see. And that's fine.
And I hear you. And I'd also would be curious knowing that what the stage was that deteriorated after 30 years of loving use, I don't know what the community interest would look like to partner with us on this. And that process would not look much, it would clearly take much longer than, or being part of that 6-month period. But I don't know if, I don't want to name names, but there are people who own trees on land and maybe there's an opportunity. And I don't want to change the footprint. I don't like the plans from 2010. And so I can get on board if Design West is willing to, if it's not in this 30%, give me the footprint as is with just a copy paste replacement. Great. If not, I'm opposed at this time.
Cody, one question. I was reading, I didn't get out my highlighter and read the agreement. I do that too much during 8 to 5. But part of this process is also presenting it, Design West coming and presenting to council.
I don't think it had a presentation to council built in, no.
But the more we divert from what was proposed, we might not be seeing a stage with a roof until 26.
I understand the risk associated, but I'm
we
not
also might have it
stoked.
for 50 years. And so 2 years versus 50 years, I think we need to look at that too.
Especially if it means taking down trees to plow us another spot to park cars behind the bathroom or whatever it looks like.
Can I chime in, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
So I think I'm with Haley and a little bit of Sandra's trepidation here insofar as I don't like the idea of committing to this plan right now because I do think that maybe more stakeholder, i.e. community feedback would be very helpful because I think that people are used to navigating East City Park the way that we've navigated it for however long we've navigated it. And I know that may seem strange, but I think with a whole new setup, especially when we have those bigger events that get more things on the side of the stage to go on the stage, it will just get more cumbersome potentially for community members to figure out how to navigate where they're able to walk and not able to walk around to the bathrooms. And so I would pause. I would pause. So I'm leaning towards not approving.
So, Mr. Mayor, to clarify, I guess if I move to deny, I don't know what does staff need from us? Can I
ask a and I feel like I've parsed this out, but essentially by approving this agreement, we are committing ourselves to going with this design. Is that a correct?
Dusting off the design?
To going to the location.
Backed up on
The assumption is that it's going to be based on the prior work, the prior public input that Design West engaged in. The city made the decision in citing the bathroom that was where the stage was going to be, the council at that time.
Right.
Now, if things have changed, then then this agreement's not going to work, right? We need to go back and change the scope of the agreement. We may need to go back out to an RFP because going through the site planning and design and estimation may be something that is going to exceed the 50,000 threshold. So we need to go out to that process. So, but no, the assumption here was, hey, it's the work, it was the public input, there was voting on stage designs, one was preferred, and the location was set. And so this was now carrying that forward and updating cost estimates so we knew what it was going to cost to construct so we could identify funding to be able to do that. And we have $370,000 that's current in the draft budget before the mayor for review to fund the stage for next year. If that's not the direction the council wishes to go and wants to go and reevaluate other locations in the park, then we need to come back with a different agreement, and that'd be in a different process, which is fine. Our goal here was that groundwork had been laid. We were trying to expedite the process. The stage coming down was an unanticipated event, and we were trying to get this rolling and felt that there was already a understanding of where that stage was going to be based on the bathroom's location and what it was going to generally look like.
Sure.
And so we were advancing that prior work. But if the council would like to go back, revalidate that, have conversations, look at different locations in the park, or look at replacing it in the current location, then we can certainly do that, but that'll take more time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one last question.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the CIP comprehensive improvement.
Capital improvement plan.
Thank you. Capital improvement plan for this year. Remind me, was it on the books for 26?
It was 3 years out, I think.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we advanced in the budget this year, that
To be
funding.
able to. Yeah. I just want to reiterate, I am putting my frugal hat on. I think our existing footprint makes a lot of sense. I don't like the plans from 2010 as they are. I am concerned that we are about to spend a ton of money to go back to a researcher to pay $200 an hour for design architect for something that our citizens will not like because we've all adapted to the existing split footprint. So I would rather replace things as is and whatever we can do to get it, limp us along for the next couple of years and have a longer discussion as planned in the books for 3 years out or wherever it is in the CIP. Thank you.
I'm making a motion to approve the professional service agreement with Design West Architects.
Second.
Or take other.
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. I do the same thing.
I'm just reading, yeah.
So that's a motion and a second to approve as is.
Yep.
So, let's see, where am I starting? Julia this time.
Aye.
Bryce, no? Haley,
No.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
No.
Gina?
Aye.
It's you, Mr. Mayor.
So where are we?
That's a tie.
3-3.
3 and 3. Mayor votes aye. So, but we can send off some of the comments made here to Design West as they enter into the look-see,
Yeah.
just to address some of them.
Just not feeling great with a project like this with the divided opinion of the council, to be honest. That's,
Mr. Mayor, can I ask
Yep.
Bill and Cody, I mean, is it possible for us to get a materials estimate from staff on staff time, not asking from Design West for what replacement on the current footprint looks like? Like, is that?
just to replicate the prior structure.
Yes, yeah.
We'd
I
have to
mean,
get a design prepared. So you're
Okay.
going to have to have it designed by a design professional. So I can't give you that right now.
Great,
We'd have
that
to,
helps. Okay.
So you can wait and see what comes back with the 30% and
$18,000 of our, citizen tax, for something that I'm anticipating not liking. It's how it goes. It's all right. I love spicy night.
I would really remind all of us up here that we are making some assumptions about our community that we may not be right about. Let's give the Design West group a chance and we can take a look at it. If we hate it, we hate it. But I do think there was some work done and some big dollars invested and it's worth taking a look at.
so I understand the concern of cost and the split design and loading and staging area. So, I mean, something we could certainly explore is could it be a freestanding with a service alley behind? So it is parallel to the bathroom, but has that, I mean, if that's the concern or question, and
That's a question.
My-
That's a question. Bill, do you know why are we so committed at this point? Like, what was the big selling point for the whole bathroom connection? Like, do you remember back then? I mean, that was 14 years ago. Why was that such a thing?
I don't know. I mean, it previously was that case. I mean, structurally, they're going to be independent. There's not much in the way of plumbing or mechanical systems we'll be tying in. There's a little bit electrical, but that's not a big deal to connect that separate. There's a whole layout with a green room and equipment storage area. And I mean, there were concepts that were developed at that point in time that connected together. I mean, having the restroom close by, I think is beneficial, but I don't know if there are concerns or questions about, parking, staging, loading areas when it was considered last time. If that's the, I mean, I know there's cost is one, clear. But if it's functional circulation or staging where you certainly could talk about that with the users, understand what do they need, how could that be modified,
And like, where is the sound going and what direction and what kind of buffer do we have? And what, it seems like it's going in a weird angle where right now it's like at least going straight and you have trees that go with the buffer.
So you've got a
help with the
bowl that heads up
neighborhoods.
towards the playground. So it kind of forms a natural bowl at that area. So the sound is just going, I mean, it was almost due west. It's now going northwest.
So I'm just trying to get my visual like Gina does sometime. All right. So we're looking at here almost, yeah, that didn't help me at all at 0. I've looked at it like all the time today. It doesn't help me. How does it
I
turn from
hear
where it
ya.
is now? If it's looking toward the playground, so all the sound is at the playground and you're having people sit
On the hill.
on the
it's meant to be
hill,
the natural
that's
thing.
not a lot of room.
And trees would have to come down. I mean, that's what I'm ready for.
They mapped out as being larger seating than what currently exists.
Let's get 30% of the way there and take a look at it. None of us are, well, except for Drew, are architects in our daily
I
life.
have a lot of opinions. I know. I'm sorry.
Cody, could you-
But a thought that I think part of this, out of these initial 30% become options about where you're phasing, where you're bringing things in.
From the contract, it doesn't seem like 30% is going to get us options. And that's why I'm really not happy with spending $200 an hour for them to dust something off and put it back in front of us if we're not thrilled on it, if half of us are not thrilled on it now. I don't want to pay them $200 an hour to give me something that we already see from 20 whatever that we don't like. So sorry, guys. It's been a long night. I can feel myself wearing thin. I apologize.
It has
But,
been.
Mr. Mayor, we already voted, so can we move on?
Well, we can
Well,
communicate,
Bill was
kind of like what we're
squishy.
communicating things
Bill
off.
doesn't vote.
I know, but he has a big piece in this and
So anyways, I was just trying to, this is the current stage location. The seating extends about to these trees, right? That's the current seating area.
with
The new
3 trees
stage
in the way.
would be here and extend all the way, essentially that whole area. So this is, you would end up with a much larger seating area than what currently exists for the current stage. And that was the reason for that orientation, is to take advantage of that slope.
I guess more seating or no, I'm really stuck on, oh, look, when they took that, that's really funny. They must have had an event there. Paving over something. I know we've got drainage issues on both sides, down to in front of the bathroom and towards the horseshoe pits due south. I get it. I'm not thrilled on having to have a conversation with our people about additional paving or cutting down trees to accommodate this design.
You'd end up removing paving if you had to add some here in this corner, but you wouldn't need all of this paved surface that currently exists, right?
That was my question.
You can
about
end up
the
removing
landscaping
paving.
outside
Yeah.
of it. I just wanted this.
Yeah, so you could reshape all this. The pathways likely would need to get rerouted a little bit. You'd have more clear view without, we got trees right in front of the stage currently. You'd have more clear space in front of it. Staging, parking could be to the side. These are all the things that we would look at the design, but the seating area is much larger and that's the purpose of that orientation. That's why it was set that way.
You'd feel uncomfortable talking with Design West about this? Or just
I don't feel
Cody?
uncomfortable
know
talking
who.
with them about it. This is a very important community project. I feel, obviously a little uneasy of the concern of the council of the project not having some good consensus that we want to move the advances forward, or that there'll be, it'd be nice to be able to work through and resolve some of these questions, concerns now before we get into the project.
That's what I was asking
Right.
you this for. I wonder if there is a way for you or Cody or both of you, or to visit with Design West, giving them our updated concerns, and rather than dusting off the 2010 plan, maybe there's a way to answer some of these concerns with that plan.
Well, I think it likely did. It just council hasn't seen that level of detail yet,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
But if it needs to be, if there's significant opposition against moving location, then that we won't be able to absolve. If it's how does it interrelate with other aspects of the site and landscape, that we can address through the design.
It's gone from my head. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm so fried.
It's past 9:30. It's okay.
We're doing great. And we got to get talk about fiber after this. What was bumped to move funding for this forward?
Nothing.
If we end up meeting, so the design, so this is not changing the timeline in the CIP for when the construction would happen? This is
We
just.
changed the funding, but we had some unanticipated fund balance from end of last fiscal year that we moved into parks to pay for this project.
And what else could we have used it for? Okay, okay.
So
Thank you.
it's kind of like
Okay.
chat with Design West.
Yeah, I'm with Julie. The vote happened. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Bill and Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Okay, next. We have a franchise agreement with the Port of Lewiston.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll make this quick. So the Port of Lewiston. I'll try. So the Port of Lewiston recently received a grant as part of some of the broadband funding to run a fiber optic connection from the city of Lewiston to the city of Moscow. So that will require them to do some installation of fiber optic cables within the city. The port itself is not a licensed telecommunications provider. If you're a licensed telecommunications provider, the city has to grant you access to your public rights of way. They lease to telecommunications providers, but they themselves will not be. And so we worked with them to develop an agreement, and this is largely modeled off the franchise agreement they have with the city of Lewiston already for the cables they have run in Lewiston. So under this agreement, it would give the Port of Lewiston the right to install underground utilities, fiber optic communication cables within the city. In exchange, they would provide 5% of their gross revenues to the city as a franchise fee. So they'd be compensating the city for the use of the public's rights of way. And that would come from their leases that they're leasing to the telecommunications providers. It just provides, the overall general term. It's initially, this would go until 2044, so it is a 20-year franchise agreement for their project. And then it just has general requirements for insurance and for restoration, installation of lines, locations, their work in the right of way, and then there's a large attachments to it that have our construction standards for restoration requirements for construction in the public rights of way. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions the council might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bill, is 5% standard?
It's pretty typical. I mean, our natural gas and franchise are 3%. Sanitation is now 10. So 5 is what they had for the city of Lewiston and what they felt comfortable with the city of Moscow.
And so other than the 5%, what we get out of it is our folks outside city limits and elsewhere who may not already have this connection, it's just going to overall broadband connectivity and whatnot, right? Overall.
Yeah, I mean, the port's primary focus is providing multiple pathways. So they're not actually end user service providers.
Okay.
They are really focusing on getting to major hub locations. So it's going to be from City of Lewiston to the U of I Library as a POP, and then probably here to City Hall in the basement in a future phase. First is to connect to the university. And that way the university, which serves as a primary internet connection to town, has both a connection coming from the west, from Pullman, from the port. They will have a connection coming from the south. And they're even going to go on rural county roads from Lewiston up here so that they're not running the 95 path with parallel where most of the incumbent providers are. So you have redundancy in actual physical location. So if you had a dig up, it doesn't take everybody out at the same time. So their goal is really end-to-end long haul transport.
And redundancies.
And the county is working on a project, Latah County is working on a project to extend service to rural Latah County. The port is just providing this redundancy of multiple pathways, long distance haul.
It's beautiful.
And any construction affiliated with it, they will have to pay the fee to get it done, right?
Yeah, obviously they're paying for all construction. The next item is the lease that you'll talk about. But they obviously will be responsible for all construction costs. That'll be funded through their grant. So the city would not incur any expense related to this.
Ruby. Thanks.
Was CETA helping with this at all?
I
They were
couldn't
talking
tell
about it
you
once,
if
weren't they,
the
Julia?
I think they're talking rural broadband.
Yeah, but I think this
It
is
was
a
the-
different
It
project.
was the rural one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Christina Mangiapane, I think, is that one.
So, and just to wrap up, so by city code, we are required to approve an ordinance to approve a franchise agreement. So there is an ordinance in your packet that essentially authorizes and approves a franchise agreement. which staff is recommending you pass under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete separate readings and to be read by title and published by summary.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings and then to be read by title and published by summary.
Stop there. Yeah.
Strong work.
Well done.
Second. Oh, Julia, you can have it.
Okay, Julia gets a second. Okay, Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Sheena,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce.
Aye.
Okay, number 10.
All right, moving on to the next one, Your Honor.
I got to read.
Oh, sorry. Ordinance.
I've got the
Okay.
scroll.
I was so eager.
An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, granting a non-exclusive franchise to the Port of Lewiston to install, operate, and maintain fiber optic lines and related facilities, providing for and establishing a franchise fee, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from the date of its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Okay, onward.
Thank you, Your Honor.
On to the Port of Lewiston conduit lease agreement.
So this is a little bit of an unusual lease agreement. Most of the time, we are leasing fiber strands and fiber capacity, and the council has authorized the discretion for me to sign those agreements. This one's a little bit unique in that it is actually leasing a conduit the city installed as part of one of our fiber projects and largely running from essentially the intersection of Mountain View and Highway 8 and continuing westward to the South Couplet and essentially to Sweet Avenue. And so that's a pathway that the port is wishing to utilize as part of their construction. So as I mentioned, they'll be coming in on rural county roads east of Moscow, kind of on the Linville, Palouse River Drive area, and then ultimately landing at the Mountain View and Highway 8 intersection. And they would like to take advantage of the spare conduit. So when we typically do a lot of our fiber installs, we install additional spare conduit when we're pulling it for future capacity. Underneath the lease agreement, they'd be required to put a fiber duct, which is just a way to provide multiple pathways in that conduit. Just think of it as either a kind of creates a honeycomb structure. So you can pull cables in the future. Once you get 1 or 2 cables in a conduit, it becomes difficult to pull a new cable through without getting wrapped around and yanking out the existing cables. So providing that interduct would provide essentially 3 pathways. So they'll utilize 1 with their cable. That'll still give the city 2 additional pathways for potential future use that we had intended for the conduit. And so this just gives them an opportunity to help reduce some of their construction costs because it's very inexpensive to pull through existing conduit. It is very expensive to do directional boring. We came up with a method or evaluation of the conduit lease based on their percentage of conduit fill, the estimated construction cost of installation of that conduit, and then a future escalation factor that came out to start about $1,200 per year and grows from there. This is a 20-year term, and they wish to have a single lump sum payment for that lease because it is being funded by the grant.
Yeah.
So that's the money they have currently that they can assign. So that would be a single payment of $33,101 for the 20-year term of this lease agreement. There's really no significant downside to the city. We maintain existing capacity in that conduit run. We help save them some cost on construction, and we help recoup a little bit of cost on our project when we initially installed that conduit. So because this one's a little bit odd and most of our fiber agreements are 3-year terms, this is a 20-year term. I wanted to bring this to the council for the council's review and approval. Be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Haley.
Mr. Mayor, is it fair to say from Hot Take Haley that this is $33,000 that we wouldn't have had otherwise if we say yes?
Certainly.
Okay, cool. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay.
I move that we approve the proposed lease agreement.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All right, Sandra.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Bryce.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Sheena.
Aye.
Okay, that takes us to the end of the agenda, but at
Can we
this
put a
time,
hold on reports?
yes, I was just going to say
Oh,
that.
great. I move that we hold reports until our next city council meeting.
Woohoo.
I think that's by acclamation. Does anybody want to go?
I move to adjourn.
Adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Okay. Okay, we're adjourned.